Here we go. That was a little heavy. Sorry about that, you guys. Wow. It's a lot, yeah. Good evening, everybody. It is, what is it? It is November 7th and 5:01 PM. We're beginning this meeting of the Pacific Grove Unified School District Board of Trustees, calling this to order. As we begin this meeting, it is important to pay respect to acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Ohlone, Custodian, and Esalen people, and additionally pay respect to elders both past and present. So with that, can we get a roll call, please?
Of course. Well, President Brian Swanson.
Present.
Clerk Dr. Hazen.
Here.
Trustee Otmar. I'm here. Trustee McNary. Here. And Trustee Swanson is not here yet. She will be here shortly, but she's.
I understand we'll see her soon in closed session. So moving on to adoption of the agenda. First, I would like to open up for public comment on the agenda overall. Do we have anybody online? Seeing nobody online, let's move to the room. Do we have anybody in the room who wishes to comment on the agenda? Seeing nobody, let's move on to the board. Any comments on the agenda as it's presented so far?
Curious if we're going to be hearing potential changes to the agenda now, or if that'll be discussed.
I think we will. If you don't, I will.
Or Dr. Adamson, either way, I'm open. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, what I would like to do, because I know there's at least one hot button issue as it comes to Planned Parenthood in that issue. I would like to pull that from consent and just move that to the end of consent. So especially anybody that is tuning in right now to know that this is a little weird or awkward, but that I would like to see that move to the end of consent and save any comments, whether they're public or from staff or from the board, to the end of consent. I'd like to see that happen. But that's the only thing that I have. Anybody else? So I think we need to actually see a motion on that, right? So I'd like to move to take that item and move it off of consent and to, what would we label that as?
It essentially would become an action item at that point because you're pulling it off the consent.
All right, so item A or double A?
Double A. We could
double A. All right, so that's my motion. Can I see a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, so knowing that, we're moving that and then moving on to closed session. The items that we have here will be negotiations with collective bargaining, PGTA. Second item, negotiations collective bargaining with CSEA. Third item, public employee discipline dismissal, release, leave, complaint for Government Code 54957, kind of a catch-all. Fourth, conference with legal counsel relating to anticipated litigation. And fifth, conference with legal counsel, again, anticipated litigation. Moving on to, is there any public comment on closed session topics? Anybody online? Anybody in the room? Knowing that, we are going to adjourn.
Can I say one thing before we do? Just procedurally, I was a little confused. I thought we usually would pull consent items at the time of consent. So should we maybe just revisit that when the consent agenda comes back up, just to make sure that way everyone's aware? Or
I did actually run it by our legal counsel ahead of time to see when the best time, and he had mentioned it would be when we adopt the agenda, because if we wanted to let people know ahead of time that was a change we were making.
Yeah, okay. I just might, if it's okay, have a chance to talk about during the consent some of those.
I think that's a good point.
Okay.
We should reiterate that.
Yeah,
this is what we've done, so people know. But again, yeah, we checked it out beforehand just so we're in compliance, and it sounds like we are with legal. So knowing that, we're going to move on to closed session, and we'll see you all in a while. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to reconvene. It is 6:33 Pacific Standard Time. I'm still adjusting from So I'm going to apologize in advance for any lapses or if I just fall asleep at the dais. But right now, everything is okay. We're going to report back from closed session. On number one, negotiations information was given. Number two, again, negotiations information was given. Third, public employee discipline, et cetera, information was given. On number four, and I do have an easier text bit to read. The board had voted 5-0 to improve settlement agreement associated with OAH case number 202-408-0815. If anybody needs me to repeat those numbers, I can do that afterwards. And then number five, again, information was given. Moving on, if they're sorry. We're reconvening and I'm already feeling a little blurry. Written communications, moving on. Sorry.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh my gosh, yes. Let's move on to Pledge of Allegiance. Hey, if you would be so kind.
Hopefully everyone will help me here. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, liberty, justice for all. Thank you, Trustee Dr. Hazen. All right, so now we have a full room, and I think we have a presentation to be given. So I'm going to give it over to Jared Mazer, unless there's an introduction from Dr. Adams.
I will do just a very quick one if you don't mind, President Swanson. I just want to say, first of all, how lovely to walk in and just see the boardroom filled with so many students. And we are delighted that you are here this evening. But yes, I am simply going to turn it over. Mr. Mayor, thank you for working with us and being willing to make this happen this evening. We've been saying this year that we intend for at the beginning of every board meeting to ensure that we, have students here because that helps remind us of our why. And so again, we're so grateful. So again, I'd like to just turn it over to you and let the singing begin.
So this is a portion of the Pacific Grove Middle School Choir. We don't have all of our singers here today. Some of them had things that they had to do, and that's okay. We're going to sing two songs for you tonight. One's called Ashlosha, which is in Hebrew. I have the words right there, and I will tell you what it means after this because it's there. But in this song, we have a soloist, M. McNary. So she's going to start us off, and then we're going to sing the song for you. So here we go. Okay, so, Ashlosha Divarim, sorry, Ashlosha Divarim Ha'olam Kayam, I'm so sorry, which translates to the world is sustained by three things, by truth, by justice, and by peace. So that was our first piece. Our second piece is also has a foreign language, Latin, and it's also the motto of Kansas, which is Arastra per aspera, which means to the stars. And there is some English in this, and the translation of this one is to the stars through difficulties. Look upward, move forward, leave all cares behind. That's all we have for you, so.
Yes, another round for sure. Before you leave, middle school students, I wanted to just take a quick moment. First, we have to do a photo, so we're going to, so don't go anywhere, stay where you are. But I did want to, one of the things we are doing this year as a tradition, a new tradition, is every time we have guests and any of our students presenting at the beginning of our board meeting, we want to present you with a certificate that really speaks to our theme for this year of Culture of We, and your ability to embed and implement and show us how you are fulfilling our 3 core values of belonging, safety, and prosperity. So I'd like to present that to all of you this evening. And as I was listening to the words, and just Mr. Mazar, as you kind of shared a little of the number one, first of all, just 2 complicated languages that you've taken the time to learn and share such a powerful and meaningful message with us. I want to tell you, as we were listening and I was looking around the people in this room, do you realize what joy and meaning you've brought to everyone in this room through your words and through your voices? So thank you for sharing that gift with us this evening. We're so grateful. So this is the certificate for students. I'll be giving this to Mr. Mazar to take with you, but I also wanted to present one to your teacher, Mr. Mazar. I had to ask him today how many years he's been teaching here at Pacific Grove Unified School District, and it's 9 years, a total of 11 teaching as a music instructor. And just what a wonderful way to remind us of how fortunate we are to have you here, to be such a strong part of our culture. So let's put our hands together for our students and for you. We're going to face this way, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask all of our trustees and Assistant Superintendent John, and yes, our student rep, Mr. Powley, to come around, and maybe we can just all sort of stand on the sides of the choir. And I'm going to ask Mrs. BA, guys, she can maybe take a photo of all of us using my phone. Yeah. And all of our administrators at the back, you're going to come up and use the photo.
Hey, let's go together.
We're almost going to move on. I think we're waiting for Trustee Carolyn to return, so I'm going to wax on for just a second. Everybody's left the room anyway, the choir kids. But that was amazing, and props to Mr. Mazar for that. And I was one of those kids too, where choir saved my life. I think you could almost say literally saved my life. The group of kids that I spent with during those choir days, 9, 10, 11, 12th grade, it were so formative. And watching those kids tonight and look at each other and sing with each other, there is really nothing quite like that. That's a band. Right, that's just a vocal band is what it is, and not just. It's like that is a vocal band, and seeing them bring their voices together like that, and again, the looks in their eyes is really, there's just nothing for me. There's just nothing like that at all. So again, thanks for Mr. Mazar and the kids that came tonight, and to the parents that all supported it, because it's really remarkable, and that's community right there too. So that said, unless any board members want to blather on like that, we're going to move on now to another presentation from Community Human Services.
All right, thank you again, President Swanson. Well, Community Human Services plays a critical role in fostering a healthy, more supportive community through a comprehensive approach to addressing both immediate needs and long-term well-being. So we're grateful to them for the work that they do within our own community and the many people we know that they serve as a result. And we're very privileged and grateful to have here with us this evening Gabriella Schlesinger-James, who is the Community Human Services Communications Manager, to share a little bit more about the wonderful services they provide. Thank you so much for being here this evening, Gabriella. Yes, please.
Do I hit this timer? Do I have 3 minutes on the clock?
As much time as you need.
That's intimidating. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody over here. My name's, you said my full name. I thought I was in trouble. I'm Gabby James, Communications Manager for Community Human Services. I've worked there. Actually, I'm pretty fresh. You're going to witness a guinea pig presentation, so wish me luck. I've been there since about mid-April. So just long enough to kind of start to get to know the programs and what the agency does. And even in that short time, I've seen some really impressive and genuine and real results and changes in people's lives. So I'm really excited to share with you a little bit about what we do. As Ms. Adamson has already said, our mission is to provide high quality mental health, substance abuse, and homeless services to folks in Monterey County to help them reach their full potential. Next slide, please. Something that kind of sets us apart from a lot of other nonprofits is that we're what's called a joint powers agency. And when I first started working there, I had to ask ChatGPT to explain to me what a joint power agency was, as if it was RuPaul. And that's the only way I could understand it.
Yeah.
So essentially what it is, for those of you, and please correct me if you have a better way of explaining it, is a bunch of government agencies had this idea 55 years ago. We just celebrated our 55th anniversary, had this idea and they wanted to help the common good. So they all came together and formed Community Human Services, which is an agency in and of itself. So that makes things really interesting because while we are also a nonprofit, our board is comprised of representatives from different cities and from different school districts, like you can see behind you. Pacific Grove Unified School District being one of those. So what makes that interesting is that instead of board members who typically, they might be an executive at a bank and then a lawyer, what we have are representatives of constituents within their area who help us better understand the needs of their specific community. And with their input, we can really form our programs. So that's something that I've noticed has been really interested in working for CHS and something that we really appreciate your guys' participation in, because with your help, we can, serve as many people as we can in the ways that they need it, right? Next slide, please. Speaking of which, I've kind of touched on these already, but you'll see our beautiful mascot is pointing to the three pillars that we have: substance abuse, homelessness, and mental health. And we have let's go to Selena's slide. There we go. Thank you. So we have nearly 20 programs. We've broken them down by city. Most of our programs are in Salinas because it is the biggest population area that we serve. But within those, I'll run through the programs that are listed, and then I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about substance use prevention program, because that's probably the one that's most applicable here at Pacific Grove Unified School District. So the Family Service Center, we have two. There's one in Salinas and there's also one in Seaside. And at the Family Service Center, we offer therapy and parent education programs. A lot of times the folks that go here are referred to by DSS, which is Department of Social Services. But the programs I've seen, one of my favorite stories is of an 8th grader, and he had just transitioned from female to male and used our therapy services to help go through that, and had been extremely suicidal from a very young age. And through our therapeutic services was able to confront those feelings and mitigate their relationship with their sexuality, and ultimately last time I spoke to him was doing great. So that's what's going on in those doors. Off Main Clinic, which is our biggest program, is a medication assisted treatment program. So we give methadone, Narcan, buprenorphine there. We have 240 clients there and we serve 150 a day. So what that looks like is folks will come, I think, from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. and receive drug treatment services. It gets really busy there, but they just had Halloween there last week, and the entire staff was decked out from head to toe in the scariest outfits that I've ever seen. But it just kind of gives testament to the fact that the folks that are working there, they take their job seriously and they do hard work, but they're also real people that want to make it an environment where people can feel safe and feel like they're not judged and like they're just going through life like anyone else. Our outpatient treatment center, that is actually right next door. So that's for folks who have already gone through a bit of drug rehabilitation. So they meet there for group sessions 1 to 2 hours a week. The Salinas Valley Street Outreach program. So our street outreach is really neat. They have vans that go out to places where folks are living in unlivable habitations, and they provide things like they really just meet folks where they're at, right? So they provide things like if they just want a bag of food, if they want some hygiene kits, and then sometimes folks are ready to get access to resources, and they'll help provide them with those resources. If they need to reach out to the Social Security office, if they need to help getting their IDs, which is a lot of time what you need in order to secure housing. They'll help them with that, and they'll maintain client relationships over time with them. Also, they hand out dog food. So that's really neat. I've been up with them to Pajaro Valley, and then they also go all the way down south. So it's an incredible program. DAISY, our Drug and Alcohol Intervention Services for Youth. That is for students who are between 13 and 18 years old. Actually, I don't know if they have to be students. Those are for youth that are between 13 and 18 years old. And they're usually referred by a truancy or drug court, and they provide substance abuse and counseling and parent support. And a step down from that is kind of what I want to expand on as much as I possibly can with the limited knowledge that I can, which is our substance use prevention program, or SUP. So what SUP does is it contracts with different districts to place counselors inside school to support students and serve as an alternative to suspension. So previously, if a student was caught historically, if a student was caught using substances, oftentimes their first step would be suspension. And so this provides an alternative. And instead of a really strict series of recommendations, they instead provide knowledge and support and counseling and give them the tools that they need in order to make educated decisions. Because at the end of the day, we want our youth to have autonomy and be able to be in situations where they're confronted with these kind of problems and make the right choice. So that's what our SUP programs do. We have them all over the county. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about that, please. Oh, we also have a vape offense workshop. So unfortunately, vaping is becoming a bigger problem. And I'm not super aware of what happens when someone gets caught with a vape, but there are programs that we have to work with kids who have been caught vaping. Moving on, Share Center is our newest facility. It is the largest shelter in the entire county. It's a 100-bed facility. It's a low barrier navigation center for single men, women, and families. It's funded by Salinas, the city of Salinas, Monterey County, and Community Human Services. And then we partner with Dorothy's Place, and meals are provided by Victory Mission. So that's our new baby, and it's taken up a lot of our attention, but it's something that's really cool, and we're excited to have in the works. Next slide, please. Monterey and Seaside. So Schumann Heart House just celebrated its 1-year anniversary about a week ago, but I forgot because it was my mother's wedding. Don't tell my boss. So Schumann Heart House is really neat. It has a capacity for 35 folks. It's for single women and for families. So they have, I think, beds for 18 single women, and then also 4 rooms for families that can live there at any given time. There's also a housing navigator on site, and folks can stay there 6 months at a time. And of course, we make exceptions for, housing's difficult to acquire. So if folks need some help, we're always there to help them. Safe Place is actually right around the corner from there on Pearl Street, and it's an overnight youth shelter for youth that are between 18 and 24 years old. And then similarly, Safe Passage is a transitional housing for homeless youth. It has 6 beds, and they can stay there for up to 2 years. I recently visited for my first time, and a youth just walked out of their room and needed help with something, and our counselors were able to support them in whatever they needed. So it's if you ever have clothes that you need to donate, feel free to drop them off there too. They really appreciate that. Genesis House is a drug treatment residential program. So it takes up like 3 apartment buildings. And so they do NA there, they do AA there, and they provide all sorts of recovery treatments. They have group therapy. And then what's really interesting about this place is that it has space for 6 perinatal clients, which means that if there's somebody who's pregnant and also needs help with their substance use, they can stay there and go through programming. I recently had the opportunity to talk to 2 young ladies that were involved in this program, and it was really powerful to be able to talk to somebody who's in that kind of situation and what our programs how they can help them change their state of mind. And then Elm House and Sonoma House are sober living environments for both. One's for men, one's for women. Don't ask me which one's which. Next slide, please. Sorry, I'm burning through this. I just didn't want to. Are we all, any questions so far? Okay, all right. Moving on. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. And then like I mentioned earlier, our biggest population served is in Salinas, largely because that's where the largest the density of the population in the county is. But this year, or last fiscal year, excuse me, we were able to serve over 4,600 people in the county. So we're really, really proud of that. And we're on track, I think, to do a little bit more than that this year. I was talking to our CEO today and the numbers are looking good so far. Q1's looking strong. Great. Next slide, please. And then this just highlights that the majority of our clients are served in the substance abuse pillar. The homeless services, I think, are the smallest because they take longer, honestly, to serve. And if we have, say we have 6 kids living in our youth shelter, it takes, 6 months to serve each kid. So it's a slower process, but we're still out there doing the work. So that's how that's divvied up. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of what homelessness is looking like in California at this point. The difference between, I'll let you guys do your own reading, but the only difference I want to point out is the difference between homeless and unsheltered. Are you guys familiar with McKinney-Vento? Yeah, so the definition of homelessness has kind of transitioned more towards anyone who doesn't have. It can be folks who are living in hotel rooms, folks that are living in cars, if there's a whole family living in one room. So it's essentially anywhere that anyone doesn't have their own safe place to be. So that kind of is where the line is drawn between homelessness and unsheltered. So the number of our unsheltered population is also really high. And so we're kind of trying to address both of those demographics. Chronically homeless, chronically homeless means that somebody has been homeless for over 12 consecutive months or has been homeless non-continuously for 4 times over the last 3 years and is disabled. I think the stat that you guys are probably most interested in is the increase in the unsheltered population here in Pacific Grove over the last handful of years. I think there's a lot of contributing factors to that. But there's also a lot of things that we can do to help those numbers go back down. Next slide. And here is our other mascot. That's what happens when you let your boss make the slides. Mental health and substance abuse. So this is kind of our best guess. And the numbers are not as high as we'd like them to be, but that's because we don't have a sub program in PGUSD, but is always something that we can change with whatever the desires may be. So that's what it is looking like here. Oh, thank you. Any questions? Yes.
And you may have touched on it before and I just missed it. The bulk of your funding, where does it come from?
Oh, man, you're asking a communications girl about funding. So for all of our programs, we do get state and federal funding and funding from cities. Our donor funding is pretty minimal. But yeah, it's and grants, of course, as well.
Okay.
So
And for, it's like we have a smaller audience tonight. Some people tune in online, some people watch it later. For people that are in need that want to contact you, is there a quick and easy number that you want to share for people that want to go there, or do you want to share a website again so that they might be able to go there?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, of course. chservices.org is a quick and easy way. Our phone number's on there. I could give you one, but it's easier if you just go there and you can click the button there. Any services if you think you know somebody who might be struggling with mental health too, please send them our way. We have a lot of people that are highly qualified. We have confidential, available, and trustworthy sources that are here to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Floyd, anybody else? Anybody in the public? Well, thank you.
Something that just
Yeah,
popped
yeah,
into
yeah.
mind. You did mention clothing donations at Safe Passage. Is there any other space that would need donations for kids? Or I'm just thinking of families that might be listening that are outgrowing.
Yeah,
The kids are
absolutely.
outgrowing clothes or toys.
I think definitely call our offices first. But we're always accepting donations. And then we can figure out how we want to distribute those just because we have 20 programs. And so we can figure out which needs which. But yeah, if you've got things, please let us know.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you guys. Well, seems like it's about midnight, so we can all go home.
All right, thank you so much. Important work. We appreciate everything that you do for the community. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
the staff at CHS is really, really incredible. So hats off to them.
All right, moving on to communications, written communications. I did one last dash through as well, and I know it's been a bit of a since we met, but I think as I looked at it, quite a flurry of emails related to Planned Parenthood or sex ed curriculum, and one related to the passing of our bond the other day, which was quite thrilling to see. So, but that was all I've seen so far. Fellow board members, any other additional communications that I may have missed?
I have a short list here. This is as of about 3 o'clock, I think, today. I got one about DEI resources, lack of cultural proficiency, PGUSD candidates, intervention, second grade at Robert Down, and small school district advisory group. And just if anyone's listening, if they've emailed me and I haven't written them back, I plan to catch up on emails this weekend, but I have received them and read them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Or other written communications? All right, so that covered. Let's move on then to board member comments. Can we start with Carolyn? Anything? Let's go around the horn.
This week is pretty exciting because it's Linda Adamson's 1 year anniversary, technically on November 3rd. So thank you for being here with us. I am so pleased that you're our leader. Thank you. Thank you. And then just a quick note, I had just a really positive experience with my child recently at one of our schools, and I just wanted to share that. So my child got on the honor roll for the very first time, and to be just very honest, as usual, I've spent 12 years celebrating my friends' children, other people's children, and their typical milestones. And this was a typical milestone that caught me by surprise, and I was really proud of it. And I ate that Kiwani's pancake and that sausage link, and it made my whole year. So thank you for PGMS PTSA for putting that breakfast together. I saw PGMS staff working that. It was well run. It was efficient, like everything I've experienced at the middle school. So thank you and congratulations, Dorothy, on hard work.
Awesome. Awesome. Trustee McNary. Moving around the horn.
Congratulations to Dorothy. And the only comment I had was also going to say thank you for this last year with us, Dr. Adamson, and for your leadership and your patience and your accessibility and the way you inspire us all to be better. So thanks.
Well, I'll ditto exactly that. I can't speak for anybody else, but I am so grateful that you're here. You're making a huge difference. And I hope that you feel that and you know that every day. And you also sometimes need to take a break. Just saying.
I'll echo that last sentiment and get a little, I don't want to say sad, but I just do want to recognize that some people, I mean, a big event happened recently in our country and our nation, and some people are happy, if not ecstatic, about what happened, and others are sad and not, if not devastated about what happened, both with local and national elections. But I do think it's important to say, you know, here's a board, but I hope that we all can come together with kindness and love and the belonging of we to make our country, state, community, and most importantly, our district, continually better. But I will say the happy note, I am encouraged to see the value that our local and state populace places on our schools. Congratulations particularly to two of our local elected officials. We have Beth Shamas and Mike Wax here in the audience with us. And I look forward to having you guys sit on this side of the table in the not too distant future. And with that, I'll say the sad part means we have two people also eventually stepping off of the board. And I'll share one thing that I'm allowed to in closed session, but it's just is amazing to see how much we look to each other for our individual expertise. And even when we disagree, how much we respect each other behind closed doors. We're not fighting, any more than we are out here. So I just want to make that clear to folks. And it's how much I appreciate you guys. So thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hayes. And props to Dorothy. Absolutely. That's super cool. Yes, absolutely. And to Dr. Adamson as well. And yes, it's so lovely to have you here. And you've been a real beacon, and along with Josh too, helping us through those. And I mentioned this when we were in closed session, and I get super touchy feely about these things, but I look around and I said this, right? I did. It's like, I want everybody to look around that table. And we had Dr. Hagquist back there for the first time too. And everybody that it's like really is trying hard. And I think keeping the students in mind. And I think that, it's like whatever happened on what is it, Thursday, whatever happened on Tuesday was very different than what really kind of happened here in our community, right? It's like, I think everybody, we had differences of opinion on how it all played out, but ultimately it was like we all figured out a way to get there. And I think everybody in this room, especially at this time, or everybody that's tuning in online, again, we're all here for the same reasons too. And the same reason that Beth ran and that Mike did too. And we have two great new members coming on board, that they're here for those kids. And that's really great. And I think it's special about our community that we had that, And I was in London for the last 2 weeks. And one of the best parts of it was on the second to last day, we're in this little bubble of London. And then I was just riding the tube and running around and just getting off at this stop and walking for a couple blocks and then getting on and then walking for a couple blocks. And I was winding down this one street and I happened upon a school and I heard the voices of these kids, and it filled me with just such tremendous joy hearing these kids and thinking, oh, I want to go home now and I want to hear this. And so it's nice to be back and with everybody. And I'm not going anywhere in particular with this ramble other than what I usually do, just rambling on. But thank you. Thanks to everybody that's in this room, anybody that's ever come to a meeting or tuned in online or watched later, because you're all here for a reason. You all give a crap. And thank you for giving a crap. So that's it. With that less than eloquent way to end it, on to the superintendent report. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, yeah, it's been a great month this past month at the high school, and we have some great things coming up. We have a drama production that's coming up, and it's gonna be like the next few weekends, which is really good. And then we have winter sports, which has just been starting this week. And also fall sports ended, and we had a couple of teams go to CCS playoffs, which was really cool. And then we recently started this high school advisory board with a number of students from the high school, just to get building the culture and just finding out how we can improve things at the school and what we have going that's good. So that was really cool to start. And yeah, of course, we all know it's shoe week. So we're just excited for the game tomorrow. And it's been an awesome spirit week this week and all the participation from all the students. But yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, superintendent report.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you all so much for your kind words. That was number 3 on my list of things I'm going to present, and so I'll start with it. But yes, it was not lost on me. November 3rd came around, and I just, I went through all the motions of that day of just thinking back, a year to the date, and I just, I'm a firm believer in taking the time to stop and reflect and, really just think about the things that you go through, the hard things, the hard times, the challenges, the celebrations. And this year has been so rich in so much of that. And I just I feel just really unbelievably lucky. Okay, I'm not meant to be getting emotional because that's it, but I feel, I've said to everyone from day one that, I believe you're placed where you're needed. And I've never felt that more from the day that I started here. I think you all welcomed me with such open arms. And when I think back now, what's occurred and what's happened in a year with the students that we get to serve each day, with this unbelievable staff that I get to work alongside, with our families and our community members who just live and breathe, and everything is so critical to them and so important to them, the life that you've created and built here in Pacific Grove. And now I'm a part of that. And I just, that I know I do not take that lightly. And I'm grateful for just, you picking me a year ago, right? I think taking a chance on little old me, little Linda coming in brand new to Pacific Grove. And I think back to what everyone told me from day one, right? It's a small town, and, there's pros and cons to that, right? But all that stands out to me is the unbelievable pros. I love the fact that I get to drive down the road, drive down Forest Avenue, and just see students, see families, bump into staff members as I'm dropping off my dry cleaning. And, it's beautiful. And so I feel just so lucky to be a part of this incredible community, to be your superintendent, and to be the one that you've entrusted, to lead through so many wonderful journeys. And there's still more to come, right? It's just only been a year, but we have so much more to do. And I feel blessed. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so that felt right that was number one. Indeed. Okay. I did, my next two items were really just, Dr. Hazen, you said it so eloquently and so well, with the election on Tuesday night, there's just a lot of emotions, right? And I think that is the piece we talked about that at our leadership meeting. I've seen our site administrators sort of lead through that with staff, with families, with their students, right? Coming in emotional the next day, right? Because there's a chance that either the person you backed, right, is now in that leadership seat or not. But I think regardless of it, you said it, the kindness, the ability for us to really, I think, embrace that culture of who we are. This is the time for that. I would like to just focus more on our local results, specifically at Pacific Grove, our Unified School District. And I would like to start by thanking all of you for our community spoke with Measure B, and the fact that passed with such a high percentage. I mean, at 71.2%, that is unbelievable. We are so grateful for the support of all of you in backing that and getting behind it. What that means is we now have $78 million, right, that we are going to be able to put into the improvement, the renovations of our school facilities. And what that means. I'm just delighted to the fact that we are going to be able to, as of this evening, that's on the agenda, is a contract to begin building and putting together our master facility plan. And that's going to involve, and we've said it from day one, that is going to involve the involvement of everyone within this community. We will be coming to you, our community, to ask for your input and your engagement on what we want to see added to that plan. So again, just thank you. I cannot say that enough. As I said, our community has spoken, and what we're going to be able to do with that is unbelievable. For the students that filled this room, right, within the last half hour, we're going to be able to give back to them and just ensure that, the excellent instruction, the excellent education that our students get, our facilities are going to be able to match that. So thank you, thank you. As far as our new two trustees, very bittersweet. I think we had a little bit of an emotional moment, right, in our closed session that we will be saying goodbye. And I'm not going to be speaking to that. That is December 12th. We have our organizational meeting, and I have plenty prepared to be able to just acknowledge so much of what you have both, done. And I'm obviously referring to Trustee Carolyn Swanson and President Swanson. And I get emotional with that too, because really this has been, you've been my people, right? Coming on right in my first year. And so that's hard, right? So I think as a superintendent, you kind of go through this piece with, new board members every 2 years. So that'll be hard. But I do want to, yes, we have, Beth Shamas, who ran unopposed, who is automatically, yes, coming onto our board. And I'm thrilled I've gotten to work with her quite a bit and get to know you quite well in the last year, Beth, and we're excited about just what you're going to be bringing, to the board and the work we'll be doing together. I did want to take a moment to really congratulate for area 2, we had 2 community members running, and I wanted to, equally congratulate Marie Hunter and Mike Wax for the campaign that they ran. I think that, anyone today who willingly steps up to, want to step up and come and fill a seat of, being publicly elected, the courage that you show for that, the willingness, the sacrifice of time that I know both of them took during these last few months. So again, just thank you both. I know it's not official yet, but it does look like, yes, it is going to be Mike Wax. And so, we're thrilled to be having him and having him become and really complete our board, which will, as I said, officially happen on December 12th. But we're really, really thrilled for that. All right, let's see. I normally always like to talk a little bit about just some of my visits and some of the highlights of what I've been seeing. But the last week, what occurred? It was Halloween. And so I'm going to focus a little on Halloween, if you don't mind, because it was such a fun day. I know you saw, if you read my newsletter, the photos that are in there. But we had a chance, as myself with my cabinet and our district office staff, to really visit all of our school campuses throughout the day. And I was blown away by the fact, okay, yes, there we are. I asked Lewis to throw up a photo. I was so, number one, excited by the fact that everyone in our district office staff really wanted to participate. And as you can see, we all dressed, it was a 70s theme, other than our MOT group who went with the chipmunks, right? And so there we go. This fits perfectly. But just so much fun for us. So many of our district office staff members enjoyed to get out there to the sites to just watch our parades and really sort of soak up, right, that joy that you get when you're on a campus because of the students. And I think that's important for all of us. We talk about being able to connect to our why. So we got to enjoy our 2 elementary parades. Middle school students, their ASB leadership team put together a haunted house, and we got to crawl on the ground with the students and have middle school students scream in our ears, and we loved every minute of it. We all kind of came out of that with slightly sore knees, but that was okay. That was so much fun. And then high school, their ASB leadership team had put together a whole bunch of different games. There was toilet paper mummy. They had a costume contest, which was judged by the teachers. I was amazed by how many of our high school students were all dressed in costume as well. So just across the board, we've got to visit our adult school was in on the fun with their preschool students. We got to visit community high school. It was neat because I see Mrs. Dieter in the back there. She had on quite a scary costume there that she was with her students, kind of enjoying, but they got to participate in the trick-or-treating with the preschool students. So that was really neat. Even our adults with disability program, all of the students, were in costume as well. So we really did. When I say we got around to all of our campuses, it was truly, that piece. And I think the learning embedded in that, I think we forget, right? It's a day off and you'll think of not a lot of instruction, but the meaning that happens on those particular days of the learning that students learn of just how, all coming together, embedding our 3 core values, culture of we, right? Everyone involved. It was just wonderful to see. So I had to focus on that. And then just very quickly looking ahead, we have our sports. William already said it, our shoe game tomorrow night. So hopefully we'll see all of you at MPC for both our JV team at 5, I believe, and then our varsity team at 7:30. Veterans Day is coming up on Monday, and I know that means, yes, that we have a day off, but, that importance of taking that time to just recognize, right, what the meaning of that day brings. And so many of our community members within even Pacific Grove, right, but across the nation who've sacrificed their lives to really ensure that the freedoms that we sometimes take for granted, we get to continue to benefit from that as a country. But I know that you'll join us in recognizing, the important sacrifice they give. We have a few assemblies, I believe, at some of our schools, which I will hopefully be seeing many of you at as well. And then Thursday is our Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. And that's something that I got to participate in last year. So this will be my second one. I remember just being amazed at the sheer number of students and families who took part. So I'm looking forward to seeing that again. But I know purple is the color that you wear in solidarity, showing that we're committed to creating a safe and inclusive environment for all students. But, most of you will know that, this day represents it gives us that ability to honor a young 6-year-old girl, Ruby Bridges, who so many years ago so, showed that courage and bravery to highlight. And what we do on this day is we recognize the ability that she did was to highlight equal access to education, respect for diversity, and the importance of standing up against injustice. So I look forward to joining you all as we walk to school on that exciting morning. All right, and then really my last piece is a little bit more serious, and I feel it's important that I just take a moment to just be able to address some of the communications that we've received in the last week. We over the past several days, we've received emails, some phone calls. I've had some conversations with staff members and families about the district's decision recently to move away from the Planned Parenthood curriculum. As you know, it is an item that, yes, is on the agenda later on this evening. So we'll have a chance to, really talk about that in a little bit more detail. But I did want to just mention the fact that I know that a lot of those concerns were raised as a result of an article that was published in a local newspaper last week, which highlighted the change in our comprehensive sexual education curriculum, specifically the district's decision to move away from that particular curriculum. The decision to explore new curricular options was actually one of several curricular initiatives that was presented at a board meeting on September 5th. But the only item that was highlighted in that particular article happened to be, the decision on our sex ed curriculum. So given those responses, there are just a few things I wanted to highlight with those of you who are here in person and those of you tuning in and listening online. I think first and foremost, I believe there is a misconception out there that, that decision means we're intending to discontinue the teaching of a comprehensive sexual education. And that could not be further from the truth. As you know, this evening, Dr. Hagquist will be bringing forward a contract for services for a new curriculum, which is our Positive Prevention Plus is on the agenda for approval for, as I said, a contract of services for our pilot committee, who he has been working very diligently with over the past few months to look at other options to continue to do just that, continue to teach our comprehensive sexual education. The pilot team itself, yes, they considered a variety of different options, and through that process, which I might just want to make sure everyone is aware, that process is something that we follow for every single curriculum adoption. And it allows us that ability to look at what those other options are out there for teachers to go ahead and utilize the program to identify if this is something that is going to work for our students and for our district specifically. So I think the question is, why the change now? For many years, we have used Planned Parenthood's Marmonti's program, otherwise known as PPMM, and it aligns really well with California's state educational health standards, as do all of the other programs that we have been considering over the past few months. However, last school year, in the 23-24 school year, we became aware of limitations around parental and public access to PPMM's, Planned Parenthood's materials, which ultimately is what led us to that decision to transition away from Planned Parenthood for now. As a local educational agency, we are bound by curriculum transparency as well as legal requirements, which means that we have to make curricular materials, including supplemental documents, available to the public under the California Public Records Act. This obligation ensures that all curriculum is openly accessible to our educational community without restriction. The decision, I want everyone to know, was not made lightly. It involved several conversations over a period of several months involving the Planned Parenthood's executive leadership team, as well as their legal counsel and ours. And as I said, this transpired over several months. It was not a decision that we made overnight. I want everyone to know as well that whatever curriculum we do end up selecting, we remain committed to ensuring that it not only meets state standards, but also ensures that we are fostering an inclusive, forward-thinking educational environment that is also fully aligned with our district's emphasis on cultural proficiency. We take pride in the curriculum adoption process that we follow as a district. And that was one of the things when I first stepped into the position of superintendent, I was unbelievably impressed with. It is a rigorous process that involves the input of our experts, our teachers, our administrators. And this is the exact process that we are and will follow as we select a new curriculum to replace Planned Parenthood. It will involve, once the pilot team has selected and brought forward based on their recommendation, it will involve the board's approval. It will involve a 30-day public review, and during which time, as with all of our curricular adoptions, we ask for input from the public, and we can take into account to answer questions and the ability to provide and gather input and address concerns. And finally, I think in that all, the important piece for us is that our community knows that your voice matters. We value and we're grateful for the input of our families and the community as we go through that process. And as I said already, we are committed to providing our students with the same high quality, comprehensive health education that they have received in the past. We embrace the principles of the California Healthy Youth Act, but we also prioritize transparency. So with that, I think what I've learned over the past week, for sure, definitely within the last year, but it came to light this week, is I want everyone to know how much we value your input, the fact that so many of you care so deeply and so much that you've taken that time to reach out to make sure your voice is heard, because as I've said, that it matters. That ability to know that we have so many who want to be a part of the solution and part of that process, that's huge. And I think that is what makes this community, such a community of caring people, and that we know we don't do this work alone, right? It takes all of us. And again, we're grateful as with those emails, I have read every single one of them. I know our board has read every single one of them, as has our administration. We'll continue to respond and have those conversations. But I really just wanted everyone to know that that is the background behind the why, behind, the reasoning behind it. We are continuing to offer and teach sex education. We're just going to be using a different tool to do so. And so with that, I'd like to turn it back over to our president.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Adamson. Moving on now to safety report, Assistant Superintendent Jorn.
Thank you very much, President Swanson. So I'll start tonight with an update on drug awareness and prevention education in PG Unified. Dr. Adamson led a safety meeting on September 23rd, where Dr. Casey Grover presented on opioid use and Narcan to reverse an opioid overdose. Since then, we have had Narcan and test strips distributed to our attendees, and we have them available at our sites. Community members, of course, may pick up Narcan and test strips at any PGUSD school site. They're well stocked at this point. And working down the path of a replacement program for DARE, we've been in discussions with Montage Health related to their Prescribed Safe education program, which is an effort to promote substance use awareness and education for a healthier community. PGUSD has been meeting with Montage Health to help us navigate all of the challenges associated with substance abuse in our community, and we are looking into the adoption of their Prescribed Safe program and similar programs in the 24-25 year. The curriculum is open to all middle and high school educators across Monterey County, and the comprehensive lesson plan and teacher's guide that we will be reviewing is available in English and Spanish, so more to come on that. Under student threat assessment and process training protocols, on November 6th, we held an all-district site assessment team train the trainer workshop for our level 1 assessments. This model was trained to the staff and vetted through the Monterey County Office of Education. It was presented by San Mateo County Office of Education, who's a partner of ours and a partner of the County Office of Education's in Monterey. The level 1 protocols have been systematized by PGUSD in coordination with MCOE and San Mateo County Office of Education, and they can be found on our district website under the safety tab. On December 10th, there's a countywide collaborative led by the Critical Response Group. Participants will include educational partners, law enforcement, first responders, and community partners. PGUSD's safety leaders, myself and Director Martinez, will be in attendance, and we will report out via our website and via the January board meeting of the next steps associated with that training. Some general safety updates for the district. Today we had a fire alarm at the middle school, and great job, because there was actually some smoke that we had to deal with. I think that the takeaway was that we won't be searing meat downstairs anymore, and maybe we're doing it outside, not indoors. But what I would like to say is, how quickly the response was. This is a large group of students in a middle school. Staff and administration had them outside and assembled within 4 minutes. Fire, of course, was quick to respond, as they're really close to our school site. And just, really what a great time to highlight, the training that our students and our staff have been going through over the years. I mean, 4 minutes, that was quick. And then we released back with an all clear right into lunch, which was great. So thanks to the middle school for that. We have some camera system upgrades going on over the winter break for improved coverage at all of our school sites. More to come on that. I'll report out in our January meeting as to the outcome of those updates. We're deploying some additional radios throughout our school sites, but also we've drafted some best practices, as well as we're working on a radio channel reference guide to have as a reference tool for training and for quick reference at our school sites for our narrowband radio users. Just again, to dovetail into the training opportunities that we have that have been made available through this board, and as one of our priorities outlined by our safety committee this past year. And then finally, we have a tentatively scheduled safety committee meeting, district-wide safety committee meeting on January 14th. And if you're on the safety committee, you'll see the agenda items coming out soon and more to come. And I will report out from that committee also in January. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I am curious, just quickly, was the seared meat then served for lunch to somebody? Did they get it? No. All right, well, that's for next year, for the whole new board to address what happens when seared meat actually sets off the alarms.
And to be clear, it was the culinary. That's where the seared meat happened.
Yeah, it was in the food class.
It wasn't in a science lab. Okay. I can't even go there. Moving on, individuals desiring to address the board. This is for non-agenda items, and in particular, for tonight, as it relates to consent to, and as it was touched on before, the sex ed item that was originally on consent was pulled earlier and will be addressed once we get through consent. So this is for non-agenda items, and a quick reminder again, everyone is limited to 3 minutes. It's going to be a hard 3 minutes and 20 minutes in the aggregate on any particular subject. So inviting community members to speak on non-agenda items. Is there anyone online? We have no one. Do we have anybody in the room, community members that would like to speak on non-agenda items? Seeing no one. Moving on to PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items. Do we have anybody online for this particular matter? We have someone in the room. Come on down.
Thank you. Sherry Dieter, Pacific Grove Community High School. It was really important for me to stop by and give just a tremendous shout out to Sean Roach and his entire team and everyone at PG Middle School. They are hosting community high school students this week for our block period in their Flex Lab. Students are working on self-driving vehicles. They're working on LED signs, filming stop motion clips, the ever popular 3D printer, the laser printer, and also to Matthew Binder for helping facilitate this, and master teacher Andrew Bradley for working with our students. I'm very pleased to note that we were not there today, and we were not responsible for the fire alarm, which I imagine some instincts, so no community high school students blowing things up in Flex Lab. That's the good news. So thank you very much for facilitating that for us. One additional item, we have 3 students hitting it out of the park in dual enrollment this year. 2 students taking a psychology course at MPC. They've both aced their first 2 tests, and a student taking a nutrition course. So in my 7 years with the program, this is the most success we've had with dual enrollment. And these are full academic, robust courses. So they're super excited about going to college on Wednesday nights, as they call it. So thank you all for your support of this program. Thanks for being here. Thank you. And congratulations on your 1-year anniversary.
Sorry, there are no additional non-agenda items with comments from staff. So we are now going to move on to consent, since we already polled item. Well, what was the item number that we actually?
Okay, sorry.
All right, so that became AA. And so moving on to the rest of consent. I know, I'm not sure if that goes at the end. I think that goes at the end, double A. So moving on to the rest,
But procedurally, just as a point of order, we're taking item J from consent off of the consent calendar and moving it to action so we could discuss it, just so the public is clear
C,
too.
correcto.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, so that said, we have consent. Let's go out to public comment on consent first. Are there any, nothing online? Anybody in the room that wants to comment on the consent agenda items, agendas as they are presented? I'm seeing none, so let's get a motion to approve consent.
I will move to approve consent with the exception of J, which will move to action.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from trustee Otmar, a second from trustee Dr. Hazen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Passes unanimously. Let's now move on to action discussion double A. And sure exactly what we do with this. I guess we first go out to public comment on this
Do we have a presentation?
item, right? Or is there a presentation that goes with it? I mean, we don't really have a presentation.
Just, I think you can all comment.
Yeah,
right, because
so,
you pulled it
but I
first
think
and
we
then-
first
right.
need to go to, we traditionally go to public comment on this item, and then we take public or staff to address, and then we go to board. So let's first go to public comment on this particular item. Is there anybody online?
President Swanson, can you
Yes.
just announce, based on the agenda, what the item is that we're going to be discussing at this time?
Yes.
Thank
Yep.
you.
So this is contract for services with Positive Prevention Plus. And as it read on originally on consent agenda, God, it's the jet lag. A recommendation from Dr. Larry Hagquist, Executive Director of Educational Services. The district administration recommends that the board review and approve the contract for services for Positive Prevention Plus. Okay. Anybody in the room with public comment? All right, please come on up. Make sure you have the green light on like I seem to keep forgetting to do.
Okay, hi there. Crystal Gaudette. I'm the parent of a middle schooler at PGMS and a fifth grader at Forest Grove Elementary. The handling of the district's communications surrounding its decision to discontinue the use of the Planned Parenthood curriculum was appalling and irresponsible. Since at least 2018, a small but vocal minority of Christian nationalists in our town have unfairly targeted this curriculum, rallying around this topic as part of their agenda. We have witnessed performative prayer circles at school board meetings, coordinated campaigns to field anti-sex ed school board candidates, and a recent application for the superintendent position, and ongoing efforts to erode our commitment to comprehensive science-based education. Yet every time that this issue has been brought up before the school board, dozens of parents have spoken out in favor of keeping the Planned Parenthood curriculum in place, reinforcing our community's support for this inclusive, medically accurate sex ed program. Against this long-standing backdrop of targeted attacks and consistent parental support, it is outrageous that this decision to abandon the Planned Parenthood curriculum was made in private and without an opportunity for parent input. This history is important because without this context, you may have been naive in thinking you were just considering a neutral bureaucratic question of whether the board policy should remain that community review is warranted for our curriculum. Without considering this history, you might have been complacent in thinking that your decision would not cause a public uproar. But you received a wave of parental emails, and the change.org petition on the subject had more than 70 parental signatures the last time I saw it. Because when you consider that history and context here, the decision you made was much more than that. You emboldened members of our community who consistently aim to harm the most vulnerable in our population. Immediately following the news article announcing the decision, just 4 to 5 days before our election, Right-wing activists flooded social media, celebrating this decision as a victory, misinforming the public about the reasons the curriculum was discontinued, and attributing the decision to school board candidate Marie Hunter's influence. You motivated these individuals, most of whom don't even have kids in our schools, and they're already discussing now on social media how to come for meditation in our schools. Now retired Miss Marr's tapping strategy for reducing stress, book banning, ethnic studies, and more. There is truly a disconnect between the district's intentions of cultural proficiency, the district's proclamations of the culture of we and the culture of safety, and the impact of this sex ed decision. Why are the PGUSD administration and board pushing for general public access to the sex ed curriculum? According to the California Education Code, instructional materials must be made available for inspection specifically by parents or guardians, not the general public.
And I'm sorry, I do have to call 3 minutes on your time. Sorry.
All right, I'm just going to finish my last sentence.
All right, one.
The board policy favoring broad community review by non-parents and guardians who have no stake in what our children are learning and who are focused on their own political wins tosses a bone to extremists and invites them to target additional curricula that they find objectionable.
Thank you. We have somebody online. We have 2. Let's go online, and then if anybody else in the room.
Yes, Mr. Allen, am I allowed to speak?
Yes, by all means.
Yes, I really have a question in regards to the process as far as the selection of the the PPP plus. So there is a 30-day public review period coming up. So the question would be, and I know we're just looking at a contract for some training, but supposing there is some input from the public regarding the curriculum that is being offered by this vendor, are they willing to change the curriculum based on input from the public, or is it already something that can't be modified that the district would be purchasing, so to speak?
All right, thank you. Just a reminder for those who haven't been through this process before, it's public comment. It's not a Q&A. So if a board member wants to direct that question to staff, by all means they can. But again, it is not necessarily it's not a Q&A. So if a board member wants to do that, and maybe we come back once we get to board comments if we get there. And let's go on to, we still have 2 other people online, so let's go online and then we can come back and bring that around if the board wants to address that. Okay.
Hello, this is Chris James, and I guess I had a question also about the other options that the board and the district looked into to replace the Planned Parenthood. I was also very shocked just to be informed in such a strange way. And I am pretty consistent with checking the information that the district and each one of the schools sent to the parents. So I was just truly shocked and sad about how I received the information of this change.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Again, like I said before, the board wants to bring it up. Once we get there, we can do that. And just again, to make sure everybody understands how this plays out, we do public comment in the room, online, we go to the board, and then we don't go back. So if you have public comment that you want, now would be the time to do that. So let's go to the room here, please, and then we'll go back online.
Thank you for taking my questions. I'm just going to send them out as rhetorical questions. My name's Colleen Ingram. I'm a resident, and I'm also an advocate for public participation in civic work. So what's going on here and what I see with the Planned Parenthood is there doesn't seem to be a change in the transparency issues that the school has in their policies. And with the history that we had with the Planned Parenthood fighting back and forth to try to keep the integrity of a sex education plan for parents, why now did it become a problem with transparency? And also, if this is a feeling out situation, is there a possibility that you'll go back to Planned Parenthood? Because this is something that the public, the community has been fighting for and thought they had, every year or every time this is challenged, they come up and speak their mind. And if this is something that was on a consent agenda or something that the public felt that was slipped through, we're going to lose people participating in this. So, I mean, why participate if every time you turn around, you have to redo it over and over again? So I hope that you'll take that into consideration and maybe look back at Planned Parenthood because it was working for everybody involved in the school, the children. And if the parents want it, to reinstate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go back online. I think we still have one person online.
Yes, hi.
Go ahead.
Good evening, board. First, I would like to congratulate my opponent, Mike Watches, in his win for trustee area 2 and for Beth Shama's appointment for area 4. My name is Marie Hunter, and I would like to address the topic of comprehensive sex ed that I see best fits for the children. In May of 2023, I reviewed a version of the PPMM curriculum, and many alarms were set off, what I deemed appropriate for this topic, and especially for that age group. I further reviewed it again in December of 2023, where I witnessed changes made to the initial content. And I have a lot of doubts that anyone at PGUSD actually noticed that the content changes as time goes on. All of this is actually online, and a lot of parents don't know that. And for the record, because I know that often people that criticize these kind of topics are called racist, right-winged, nationalist. Well, I've got news for you. I'm a double immigrant. This is the third country I've lived in. I'm not a Christian, but I'm a mom, and I'm a mom that worries about what my kid is exposed to. So there's no doubt that kids need sex education, and this was never about removing sex education from the school. I'm concerned that there's a group present tonight that has not reviewed it at all, to the extent that I have. It takes a good 7 to 8 hours to click on every link, on every resource that's provided in there. I don't believe these individuals can really form an accurate account of the facts and do not understand the requirements of a public school content regarding access to curriculum to the public. And I applaud the school staff for pulling the old curriculum off and considering a better alternative. So with the pilot on the CSC, I am concerned that the 30-day review process offered on the new curriculum will be done after the fact once the board has approved the provider. I strongly believe that the community should be involved in this sensitive but important topic prior to approval. And I recommend that the following aspects be reviewed in the chosen provider. There are to be no gathering of survey data from the students on this topic. It shall show parents as being a safe alternative for child to get information from. It needs to make clear at the beginning of the class that consent is not legal per California Penal Code 261.5, and that through scenarios, the child is not left confused about this important legal aspect. No website, such as scarleteen.com, sex, etc.
I'm sorry, we have to actually play you out, but you are at the 3-minute mark and we have to end your comments there, but thank you so much. Do we have anybody else in the room? All right, so please come on up.
Hi, my name is Darla Vining. First and foremost, I'm a parent, but I'm also the legislative advocacy chair for the Robert H. Down PTA. I'm here tonight. It's no coincidence that I had an opportunity to sit next to Dr. Hagquist, who informed me that he's been here for 27 years. And he had my brother as a student. And he also said that he thought of my brother as his own. Right? That's how he said. Yeah. So with that being said, good evening, members of the school board. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. This is a follow-up to the letter that I sent earlier this evening. I included the superintendent, current board members, and the incoming board members that have just been elected and sent into everyone via email. As a legislative advocacy chair for the PTA, I stand here to urge responsible budgeting and transparency when it comes to curriculum decisions. Sorry, I'm really emotional here. So recently, we've seen individuals push for costly curriculum changes, specifically around the PPMM program, despite clear evidence that this approach meets our educational goals without imposing unnecessary new expenses. It's vital that we prioritize what benefits all students, directing funds towards essential programs and resources rather than catering to personal preference or ideological agendas. Frankly, many of these same individuals who are targeting the PPMM program and criticizing the district's budget were vocal about Measure B, insisting that it would be forced increased taxes on property owners, especially those on fixed incomes. When it was straightforward tax extension, period, their misinformation was caused unnecessary division in our community, creating unwarranted fears about the school. I'm just going to wrap up here real quick. Our commitment as a district should not be educational and fiscal priorities. I'm sorry, it should be not appeasing these voices by carefully considering the financial impacts and putting student needs first. We can protect our resources and strengthening our schools for everyone in the community. We need to consider that this new curriculum is going to cost thousands of dollars in our personal teachers. And I don't believe that the individuals that were going against this actually understand that they are buying the sex courses. So with that further ado, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the room? All right, please. And it looks like we're just about running up on 20 minutes here too. So we'll end it with this.
Hello, everyone. My name is Raquel Fonseca, and I'm a parent of an 8th grader in the middle school. This is the first time that I attend one of those meetings, so it's a very interesting experience for me. I just want to share my personal experience, and I do appreciate the note that the superintendent gave earlier. I think that transparency of what our kids get is important to me as a mom. So which program it gets selected, I think the most important thing is that we parents have access to it and that we can be part of the decision. At the end, whichever program you guys think should go, that is up for review, that we get to give our opinion. And at the end, we do trust you, or at least I can say I trust that you have the interest of our kids in mind. But when decisions are made and we are just kind of what's going on, we don't know, it's difficult. I also do want to share that I did try to access the Planned Parenthood curriculum and I couldn't. It was really hard. I had to fill up a form because I wanted to know what was included and I didn't manage to see it. So again, whatever it is, the option, I do ask that we get to see it and that we get to give our opinion about it. And at the end, we know that it is the best interest. And I do appreciate that ultimately as parents, we have the decision to say, okay, my kids should be exempted, it's not ready for it, or that, yes, it should be in there. It's very personal, and I know it's a very sensitive topic, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that and everyone's comments. So we are done with public comment, whether online or in the room, and let's go to the board on this particular item. Does anybody want to jump in first here? I don't mean to look at it directly at you, Carolyn. I'm sorry.
It's
Carolyn,
fine.
you-
I'll start. Sure. I think we had some fantastic questions brought up tonight by our commenters. And I saw Dr. Adamson writing down the questions, and I'm hoping that you'll follow up with them and help answer them. To the parent who is here for the first time, thank you so much for coming. Darla, thank you so much for coming. Crystal, thank you so much. All the faces here, thank you. Colleen, thank you so much for coming. Our meetings are dense, and I'm not making an excuse for communication, but our meetings are dense. We invest many hours of our nights and prior preparing for our meetings. And anytime we make a decision, if I feel like it creates harm, I am so sorry for that. I am so sorry for any communication that felt like it was a surprise. It's an absolutely awful feeling, especially when it comes to education of your children. I am so sorry. So I hope we will follow up with the families who have questions, because everybody deserves answers. This is truly about access. I don't know if we want to go into the legal side of why we need to allow access to our community for all of our curriculum. But it's a valid point. And I personally, as a board member, wanted to access the curriculum that I was on the shoulder, that I had on the shoulders. And, I've been here historically in this room, in these seats, wearing a pink shirt. One year we were all wearing pink to support Planned Parenthood. We had this room full. We had a local OBGYN tell us that Planned Parenthood was like having Neil deGrasse Tyson come and teach your science class. I've been paying attention to this district for 8 solid, if not more, years. And I support the decision to go out and look for a new course, a new vendor. So I would like for us tonight to really highlight the process of the pilot program. Please, let's do that in this public forum for my own benefit. And then when it does come back around, yes, Beth Shamas will be sitting in this seat, but I'm going to plant these seeds that I want to see this programming. I want us all to be able to review it thoroughly and see that there's a module for kids who qualify for special education. I don't know if that's part of the existing curriculum. I feel so uncomfortable that I have no real clue what's in this curriculum. And I can't feel good about that. So moving forward, I want what we end up with to be better than what we had. I want to make sure there's a special ed module. I want to make sure that it's truly translated into Spanish and perhaps the other 1 or 2 top primary languages in our district. I want to make sure that the programming is not just asynchronous where you're online looking at a computer. I want to make sure that this is true engagement, true education. I think I'll leave it at that for now, but those are my true, honest thoughts about this. And I am truly sorry for the unrest and the harm and the heartache that was felt because people felt that this was a surprise. I actually, once I get off the board, I'm going to take a moment and say this. Once I get off the board, I have always wished that I had had time to summarize our meetings in 1 or 2 pages and distribute those out to the public. It's just something, we don't have a communications person in the district. Lucero's already working here after hours. We are doing so many things. And so I hope to volunteer my time as a community member once I just become a community member and boil down these meetings because I still plan on being here, but it is a time commitment and I understand not everyone can make that time commitment and be here. But these are public meetings and we do everything in public. So I'm sorry for the surprise. I truly am.
Thank you. Jen?
It's an emotional topic, and I think since I've been on the board, first time we're taking a dig at it in this format. Yeah, I too sat through in the pink shirts in the audience and for some years watching. And I think as a community member, I really looked for transparency, and it's something for me that is still of high value sitting in this seat. And this isn't about political ideology. This is about facts. And the fact is, we have to have access, and we cannot with this curriculum. And so we need to be able to provide our students with comprehensive sexual education. The content stays the same. The Department of Education governs what we can and cannot teach our kids in curriculum. We're not making those decisions. We're choosing a vendor. So tonight we're discussing whether or not we're going to pilot with another vendor. And I take comfort in knowing that our experts, our teachers are reviewing the programs that we're looking at. They know if we're meeting content standards. I put that in your hands, Dr. Hannquist. Thank you. So I get the upset and I get the timing is rough. And I agree. Surprises, no surprises. We say that all the time up here. Like, that's the goal, no surprises. So I'm sorry for it coming as a surprise. I know for me, it's really important that we do follow our processes and our procedures and our routines. And this curriculum adoption should be the same as every other curriculum adoption. Like, no topic gets special preference or different circumstances or treated differently. And that's where I'm at on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Otmar?
I don't know how much more I can add to what you both are saying, because I'm right in line with exactly what has been said. It's unfortunate that it felt like a surprise, and that definitely does not feel good. I can say that I'm a huge supporter of Planned Parenthood. I'm a huge supporter of our kids getting a proper education in sex. I think it is important. I think there are so many facets to it. Things that you brought up too. There's so many facets to sex ed. It is not just about sex. It talks about love. It talks about consent, healthy relationships. There's so many pieces to this. I think it's okay to explore something new. We have to make it available to the public. California Ed Code, yes, it must be available to parents, but CPRA, the California Records Act, we have to provide this to the public as well. It's required. And right now that's not working with Planned Parenthood. And so we have to explore something new. That's not to say that Planned Parenthood can't come back, but until they figure that out, our obligation is to continue to teach these blooming adults what's appropriate and what's real, and that's our responsibility. So I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hazen.
Yeah, I am following much more eloquent speeches than I will give, but I do think it's really, as has been said, like, as a board member, and I don't like to speak for the board, but I, along with this board, fully support comprehensive health and sex education for our students. This is not a place where somebody is winning. This is a place where we are doing the best for our kids. And as was said, these packets, the way these things are done is not always easy to digest, but I promise this is being done in the best interest by our board, by our district, of our students, not the detractors out there that are trying to water anything that we do down. And again, I apologize the way that it came across, but I did have two just quick questions. if I could ask, if this is the right time, right? One, just do you feel, Dr. Hagquist, as a district that PPP is as comprehensive as Planned Parenthood was?
So we are at the beginning stages of the process of reviewing PPP. We just recently received the binders, which was one of the questions was why do we choose PPP? One of the primary reasons was accessibility. We were able to purchase binders. I have them, that we just got them in the boxes very recently. They did allow access to the program, and I've met with my teachers and we've begun to review the curriculum. And we feel that right now it is as comprehensive, if not more comprehensive in some ways in terms of teachability. And so I do have some teachers here as well who have begun reviewing the curriculum that would be willing to speak to that.
No, that was exactly the level. The other one I'll just ask quickly as well is just, what does this mean for the role of Planned Parenthood in our district? Like, does this mean they're not part of our, community or part of our classroom?
That does not mean that it's that Planned Parenthood is not part of our community. And we've already considered, if Planned Parenthood was accessible, we wouldn't be making this move. Right. So it's all about accessibility. We want to continue our relationship with Planned Parenthood and continue to be able to supplement our curriculum as we teach a robust sex ed curriculum to our students.
Thank you so much. And just to reiterate this, if you have concerns, again, please bring them to the board. You're in the right place here. But do know in this issue, we are aligned with what our students deserve and need. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I heard it a couple of times here, about no surprises. I know this is a surprise to some folks. It is a tricky situation though, because we've changed curriculum and other things and sort of brought it around the same way. And, you don't get the same reaction about math that you might about sex ed. So in some ways, even though I think we treated it the same way, maybe what we missed was that it is a hot button issue, and maybe we should have shone a light upon it a little bit more, shined a light, whatever it is. So, and that we could have made it a little more evident, but that, is all water under the bridge. One of the things I want to stress again, and we've heard it already though, is that this is not about what any community member had said about what the content was. I just want to reiterate that, right? That this is about complying with California Education Code. And it was something that we weren't really aware of until very recently. And that happens often in board life too, when we're going through and it's like, oh, I didn't know that. We've been doing this for 6 or 8 or 10 years and we better fix that. And this is something that we learned about just recently. And because of that, now we have to make this change, and we're doing it in the same fashion that we have changed curriculum across all these other subjects as well. And it will be open to the public, and the team of people that will be reviewing it are experts. And I mean, I've looked at a little bit of it already, and I compare it to, and I don't want to deeply criticize Planned Parenthood because I'm a big supporter of Planned Parenthood. They've been a part of my life for decades, literally, and I really support what they do. I am a little befuddled that they can't come to us a little bit, and I don't understand that. But that is up to them to address. In the meantime, it's like when I tried to find content on Planned Parenthood in that curriculum, it was a lot, and when I looked up and just Googled the PPP program, I was in it in like 2 minutes, and I was able to really see what's out there. And so I applaud them for that. And I hope that plays out continually as we do our due diligence in looking at this program. So again, I want to stress that it was what the changes that we're looking at really is much more due to compliance. And it most certainly has nothing to do with some folks in the community that think that we're corrupting our children with sex ed. That's absolutely not what we're doing. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
If there's nothing further, most important voice in the room. Go ahead, trustee Powley.
I'd probably just say as a sibling and as a child of a mom and dad and as a student that I just feel it's important for parents to be really involved in particularly this type of education, just to like help teach their kids about what's going on and just prepare them for the future. So yeah, I just feel like it's really important for parents to be involved in this process.
Thank you. Just one other quick thing. I think about, again, it's like, I think it's amazing that we actually have sex ed in the schools these days, because we didn't. At least we had it for the young women when I was in elementary school. And when my dad, and he's not online watching, so I can say this, and he had 6 kids, right? So when he asked me about where babies come from, I said, oh, we already had that talk. I was 4 of 6. And so he was like, oh, okay, I guess we did. He didn't want to talk about that. It's so vital that we have this, that we're supporting it, and think about the way it was. So I'm grateful that we have it, that we're talking about it, and that we're really looking for the best programs for our young people. That should be applauded. So with that, unless there are any other board member comments.
I'm just excited to hear and highlight the process of the pilot program. Because I'm sorry, I buried that in all my comments. I don't want it to get lost.
I think I could best speak to that by describing a pilot process that I'm involved in at the elementary schools right now. We have been throughout the fall piloting the ELA, English Language Arts curriculum. So we started with summertime training similar to the training that we are asking for tonight, where the representatives from the publisher come out and introduce our staff to give an overview of the curriculum, carry us through all the modules, show us the resources. And so we have a 2-day training coming up. If this gets approved, that's going to be very similar to the training that we had during the summertime before we piloted EL curriculum. We sent out letters to the families notifying them that they're going to be part of a pilot. And then the teachers began to pilot the curriculum with their students, carrying them through the modules. And we've had several meetings. I'm going on an observation soon of another site that's using the curriculum. We've brought in another curriculum. After reviewing a few others, we decided on a new one that we're going to be piloting second semester. Ultimately, we weigh our experiences together. We create some instrumentation in order to evaluate our experiences with the curriculum. We bring students in to give their stories about their experiences with curriculum. And ultimately, we decide on a final curriculum to adopt. And that's when we bring it to the board. And it's after the board adopts that we would put it up for the 30 days that Dr. Adamson talked about for public to review.
Thank you. And I'm wondering if that is boiled down in writing. I know that we have kind of the heart of that in policy, but I think, for me as a board member, it'd be so wonderful to be able to send people a link, say, this is the process we're going to follow. And it's just so transparent. We all know it. So if we don't already have that in writing up on our website, I would like to request that. If the rest of the board is agreeable, perhaps we can get that up in a 1-page kind of format.
I believe it is part of our administrative regulations, but I think what we will do is go ahead and review that and pull that up, and we can provide that, to the board in a future update. If upon our review, it looks like it may require a little bit more detail, we can absolutely bring that forward through our policy committee. But, it's definitely detailed to a certain degree in that particular document.
Yeah.
Which will.
I think that's great. This is just highlighting so many things I'm grateful for, because Brian's right. We plug along for years, and then we realize that we haven't been doing something properly, and then we do better. And so this is that moment for this situation. So I also just wanted to ask you, Dr. Hagwis, so it's my understanding that Planned Parenthood recommended PPP as part of a list of possible vendors to be commensurate and also accessible. So is that's
Yeah, it was a list of 3 vendors.
okay? So that brings me comfort as well. Thank you so much for
The
letting
only
me
piece
speak.
I want to add that I think was part of a question that was provided earlier is, it is a little different, right? Given the fact that, we're piloting this year, it's a short amount of time that the curriculum is presented. And so, to the question that was asked earlier, because it is our comprehensive sexual education, all of before that is administered to the students, those letters will go out to parents. They'll have the ability to then review the curriculum prior to it being taught in the classrooms, just as, that happens every year. But the 30-day review would only happen after the pilot team brings that forward to say, this is the one we'd like to propose. But that's how we can be sure that, yes, parents are aware ahead of time, of what's going to be taught.
Great. Board, anything else? All right, I guess we are gonna look now. Sorry.
something.
Yes.
I suppose it's just important for me to put this out there, and I want to make sure that this is something that's going to happen. Planned Parenthood offers such a great resource for many, many different people. And I want to make sure that even if we're going with a different program, that our students are still aware that Planned Parenthood is still accessible to them, that there are locations if or when they need that. And I just want to make sure that that's still communicated because they are such a great resource. And I don't want that to be sort of lost in the shuffle of anything new coming on. So however that needs to be delivered, I just want to make sure that students and community knows that that is something that is available and is out there. And if there's a way to highlight that or just to make sure that that's known. I think that that's really important, that it's not just a class, but they're an actual entity, they're an actual physical space where somebody can go that if they need help.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious about that. You bring up a good point too, when it comes to Planned Parenthood material. Do you know offhand, is it available within our schools just as kind of material? Right? I mean, we have I forget what we call it too, at the high school, right? Where I think we have like a laundry facility and there's supplies available for folks too that need that. It's like, but we don't have like just kind of residual material, that I think should be right alongside of any healthcare material that might, mental health and things like that. It's like, if that's not available, I would love for the board in the future to take a look at that too, because again, I think that is a key part of, especially with Planned Parenthood, physical health and mental health and reproductive health and all of that stuff. It's like I would love to see that talked about in the future. I mean, it's not attached to this, but for it to come up, if you guys, I hope you do that.
And I would just like to add, if I can, that I'm so glad that this topic is coming up because we would not be having this conversation right now had this process not all started. So I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for the conversation. I'm grateful for all these faces that have shown up to support. And so although sometimes it's a little bit bumpy, it really is resulting in a deeper conversation that I think is going to benefit a lot of our students. So just putting that out there.
Anybody else? All right, so this is action discussion AA. We need a motion.
I would like to move to approve the pilot contract as presented.
Get a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from trustee Dr. Hayes and a second from trustee Otmar. Student advisory vote. I have an aye from our student advisory board vote. Board, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Anyone opposed? It's hearing no one opposed. That passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody, and for everyone's opinion. Very valuable, very important that we talk about this. Moving on now to action discussion item A, approval of the MGT IT Impact Solutions Facilities Master Plan Agreement. Assistant Superintendent Jorn, it's all yours.
Thank you, President Swanson. So tonight in front of you, we have a contract from MGT. The board asked that the district bring this contract back for a facilities master plan at our September 5th meeting when we presented an information item associated with the facilities needs assessment that was performed by MGT. As I mentioned, MGT had already provided the facilities needs assessment as an initial phase of this master planning process. The facilities master planning proposal included in your packet does conform with Education Code 17070.54 and also more importantly, Proposition 2, which did just pass at the state level, which did modify what is an allowable facilities master plan for state matching funds for school districts. So that's very important to note. It includes many items with updated information in the statute, such as identifying funding sources. The entity will assist in financial strategies to support the implementation of the facilities master plan, which is outlined in Proposition 2 and now in the statute, updating the local educational agency's deferred maintenance plan, inventorying of buildings to include year constructed, square footages, modernization, pupil loading, etc. The next phase of this process, if so approved tonight, will include a work plan and schedule. They will establish guidelines for an educational and technological adequacy associated with our schools. They'll perform a capacity utilization and loading study, demographic analysis and enrollment trends, as well as building utilization report. They will help develop educational specifications for our district associated with any facilities improvement, modernization, or new construction programs within our district. They will have community input sessions, both in the form of surveys and in-person focus groups and community engagement forums. They will develop schematic design scenarios and budgeting estimates for our district. And then they will finally bring a report forward to the board, first in draft form to inform the board of where we're at with the facilities master planning process, and then a final FMP for board approval. Their proposal as presented tonight is in line with all of the other local educational agencies in Monterey County that have contracted with similar entities associated. And I'm bringing that forward to do a comparison of cost. I did look at that as well. Oftentimes these studies are brought forward depending upon the size of the school district, the number of buildings, the age of the building. So definitely their proposal tonight is in line with what I'm seeing throughout throughout our 24 school districts. And staff's recommendation tonight is to approve the contract so that we can begin the 5-month timeline process this school year, especially with the passage of Measure B. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's first go out to public comment on this, as we usually do. Anybody online? See nobody online. In the room, Beth Shamas.
There. Beth Shamas. You know, I must have missed a meeting when you brought this up before. I know I wasn't at the September 5th meeting. It must have been that meeting.
That was when it was, sure.
So, I mean, when I look at this, I can't help but think we already have this information. We've already done it. We've in the past, I think we mentioned before that the last facilities, master plan was in 2008 or something. I think you said that. I was still on the board then. And I don't know if they're going to look at that and use that as some kind of a model that they start with. But everything that I'm reading through here on what they're going to do, I just can't help thinking we already have this information. So I'm a little concerned about $99,000 on this. But I will defer to you guys because I have not been as diligent on this as I should have been.
Thank you. Anybody else online or nobody online? Anybody else in the room? Let's go to the board and let's start with, as it's getting late here too, with our student representative. Any comments, questions?
No comments.
Thank you so much. Let's go to the board. I can start with me on this end. I do have just a quick question, and sort of what Beth was asking about too. Could you just briefly touch on the difference between a needs assessment, which is what we did, and what we're looking at now?
Yeah, so, and would you like me to address the older assessment as well?
I don't need you to, but unless you really are dying to.
So we performed a facilities needs assessment, which essentially is kind of a baseline state of the district. Like, what do the district facilities look like right now, and what are they in need of, associated primarily with deferred maintenance? That's kind of phase one. It's the start approach to a facilities master plan. I will mention that any school district that does decide to go out for state funding, even prior to Proposition 2 passing, is required to update their facilities master plan every 5 years. So anything that was done in the past for state funding match is just, it's dated. Also, to mention the fact that moving from a facilities a needs assessment to a facilities master plan, facilities needs assessment again is looking at the building itself, not really taking into consideration the educational programming that's occurring within that building. Right. So as we all know, as time goes on as well, educational adequacy, educational specifications, and educational programming change with the times, change with the curriculum being delivered in our buildings. So needs assessment, that gives us a baseline of where our buildings stand right now. That was presented to the board on September 5th, and the facilities master plan is in fact the next step in the process for final completion of an FMP that would be rolled out to coincide with Measure B, which was something that we discussed last year and again on September 5th.
Right. And there were, in looking at this too, there are a few terms that just seem, for me at least, and I'm looking at page 92, that I just were a little vague to me, like, educational review and I mean, some of these, again, I'm sure that you being in this world, they make perfect sense to you. But as I roll through like 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, I'm trying to tell the difference between one and the other. Can you just lightly touch on those?
I can. I kind of had notes on this earlier, which I did run through in the beginning, but so so there's multiple phases associated with this. And I mentioned, let's just talk about educational adequacy. There's loading studies that have to be accomplished, which is, we look at our classroom spaces and how many students were they designed to occupy versus how many students are they required to occupy dependent upon the current curricular component that's being taught. That's one component that has to be done. Also looking at the aging of the facilities, how facilities were built, when they were built. The current components right now are very, very different, right? We look at electrical, we look at seismic, which is structural integrity of the facilities. We do look at finishes, we fit and finish, we look at mechanical systems. There's a lot that goes into that, and it does go above and beyond the initial needs assessment, as I mentioned. Developing an educational specification, which is something that this board would adopt, is a very lengthy and timely process to go through and define, again, how do the buildings best support the educational needs of our district? So that's another component within the facilities master plan. This community, of course, needs to weigh in on the state of our schools and the adequacy of our facilities. So again, having input sessions, doing surveys, putting together focus groups and community engagement forums is not only a component that was recommended from this board, but it's also a component that ties back to California Code of Regulations Title V, as well as the new regulations associated with Prop 2.
Okay, yeah, and moving on from there, I kind of get 5, 6, and 7, so I won't make you go into those. Another quick question: this particular firm, because I know you've, from your work at county too, have you worked with them before?
I have not. This was the first time that, we did an RFQ to choose this vendor. When we brought the vendor forward in, I want to say it was the July board meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong. So no, I had not worked with MGT EHA before, but we were very impressed as a district with their performance. Not only their performance, I mean, we asked them to perform a needs assessment within about a 3-month period of time, and they were boots on the ground working, kind of hand in glove with our entire facilities and maintenance team. And there was a lot of ground covered to do the facilities needs assessment, and the way that they mobilized was very impressive from my perspective.
And my last question: just coincidental that they came in a skosh under $100,000?
That's just coincidental.
It's a good look for them. It's like, it's not quite $100,000. So, okay, that's all I got. Move on down.
Yeah, understand why a little sad that so many people left before this item, because I think that it's such a critical one, but I, again, completely understand why. That said, you know, again, part of the goal of this facilities master plan is highlighting how much this board and this district values transparency and input. This is the opportunity, as I said before, and Dr. Adamson said it way better than I will here too, but like, again, this is the power that you as voters entrust us with helping to improve our facilities, but this is our opportunity to hear from you as to what you want, what you need. So please keep an eye out for when those opportunities are to participate and let us know what our schools need. And just I'm really proud that our neighbors, I'm glad we're getting this in. So we're getting facilities master plan, hopefully before our neighbors get it, since they also passed bonds on their, voter rolls. So we'll hopefully have, a good head start on what we need to do to keep, again, making this district better. So thanks. I'm full in support of this.
Thank you. Trustee Atmar. You're good? Jen?
I think if it was maybe 2008, we did is that when the last facilities needs assessment was done? Or was it a master plan back then?
It was labeled the facilities master plan, which I did review, and we do have that content to share. I would suggest that it was more of a needs assessment.
Okay. So it sounds like it's been a while since we did anything comprehensive, holistic as far as planning for our district. So I'm really excited that we got to this point. I'm looking forward to seeing like how we prioritize our projects and having the ability to like effectively plan long term. It feels like such an opportunity that we get to take advantage of. So, and then, like you said, we get to monitor results and have transparency with the money that we're entrusted with. So, this is an easy yes for me, and I appreciate staff for getting us here and that we're in it for the long haul. So.
Trustee Carolyn, what you got?
Hi, I'm definitely in favor of a facility master plan. I've been asking for that. I think it's good for us to have this in writing. However, having said that, sitting here today, we are telling all of our staff, we are telling the community that our district is in a structural deficit. And then I cannot support $100,000 for this review. I would ask, and I don't know if the rest of the board's going to agree, I would ask that we go back to this firm and we ask for the structural deficit version. I would be comfortable paying 30 grand, not 100 for this. We have many things that we need to get done as a district. I don't like hearing that we don't have money for certain things in this district that are really directed to our kids and safety. And all of these items that are coming through, they have to have the structural deficit in mind. We can't be telling people they need to, trim at their sites, trim everywhere, and then not apply that to all of these contracts that are coming in. I know we just got a bond. Every dollar is precious. I would like for staff to go back and ask how we can trim the fat off of this contract to still get us to be in compliance with getting state matching funds and do that.
Can I ask just a follow up on this? It looked like this came out of Fund 40. Is that correct? Can you just describe a little bit about this? Because my understanding was that, is this competing with other priorities or something that I thought we had funds?
Right. So, yeah, so any type of a program associated with school facilities should come from Fund 40, which is a capital outlay fund. It should come from Fund 21, which is our building fund. This is not associated with the general fund.
Yep.
That states.
Did this money that's in Fund 40 originate from the general fund, or where did it come from? And is it categorical? Can it only be spent on this? And even so, we still have so many things in that category. So I think just as a just being steadfast in our messaging, I think going back and asking for a respectful version of this, that now our district is currently in this situation. We just had our budget update. I think we should kick it back and ask for less.
We had other proposals as well. or just this one?
No, the board asked me on September 5th to bring back a proposal from MGT.
Yeah.
Because they were the one that was competitively selected to do the needs assessment.
Yeah,
So
okay,
yeah.
okay.
They do have, they do have somewhat like proprietary information, right, already associated with the work that they've done.
Yeah.
But we own that material now as well, the needs assessment.
I mean, perhaps some of the information that ABM spent, I mean, they told us how much time, how much value they felt they put into developing vast amounts of knowledge about our district facilities. You know, I think we can pull this together and I want to see us working as if we really have a structural deficit, which we do, and taking our actions accordingly so that we're just consistent, you know, everyone's in the same boat. We're all strapping back.
Could I ask just another question? It's okay, Josh. What are the requirements for the state matching funds? I mean, because what I'm worried about is if we ask them to give us a reduced proposal and we lose out on a matching $78 million for that reason, that would look a little, short-sighted. And, I agree with your point completely if it were competing with general fund, but the fact that we did put these funds into, they fund 40 in the past to support buildings, and maintenance, I'm less concerned that it's competing with some of the other costs we have going.
Can you clarify that? Because I just asked, did this money come from the general fund?
I clarify. So up until a year and a half ago, the money from Fund 40 was strictly unrestricted revenue received off of the rental the property that we rent to Monterey Bay Charter School. So yes, there has been fund transfers from the general fund. There was one done at the end of this last fiscal year. We always do it at the end of the year, and that was by the direction of the board to continue to build up that fund. So, I mean, it's a combination of an unrestricted general fund contribution and then the about $260,000 per annum we receive in unrestricted revenue from the Monterey Bay Charter School lease.
Okay. Yeah, I would be really in favor of circling back on this and finding out, like Elliot was saying, make sure that it still matches the state matching fund requirements. We just recently went through that process to qualify for state matching funds. We hadn't done that for many years. We're going to go back and try to get those state matching funds. From my understanding, we're kind of getting in a long queue for that. I don't know how that actually works if we didn't have a facilities master plan prior.
We could not get them.
So can we not even go back and get those?
Right, so it's a new requirement of Proposition 2 that you have an updated facilities master plan. That's a new requirement. There's always been a requirement for a 5-year updated master plan. But the state has been a little bit more lenient on having a 5-year master plan updated prior to October 31st. So for example, if we were going off of an older facilities master plan and we had submitted for projects prior to October 31st, that's the deadline that the state has set for projects to kind of grandfather projects in. There may not have been a necessity for us to do an updated facilities master plan. But I do want to mention that the state funding that we are seeking right now is forward-looking projects. We did get our baseline eligibility. I will submit applications, but all of those applications will be after the October 31st deadline, which requires us to have an updated 5-year facilities master plan. And I will also mention that with Prop 2, there's a ton of new requirements associated with what an FMP looks like at the state for us to qualify as well after October 31st.
And even though this firm is from Florida, they are fully versed in what California requires.
They are, in fact, their entire staff that we've worked with is from California as well.
Okay, yeah, I would be in favor of that. You know, we've got to shift our thinking. We've got to kind of take each of these decisions one at a time. I would be in favor of letting the vendor know we respect their proposal. We still want to move forward with this. Where can we trim some of, I don't even want to say the fat because I'm not trying to be offensive to any part of the contract, but we need to walk the walk when it comes to this structural deficit.
Again, I'm sorry. I'm being a little, not sorry. We're disagreeing, which is a good thing. But I worry that, Prop 2 just passed. This firm is going to be at huge demand. So this is a supply demand thing. But if every other district that passed a school bond is also looking for facilities master plans to get matching funds, and the fact that, if I remember Josh correctly, that the money that we request from the state is paid out in the order the request is made. So there is a chance that we would ask for matching funds. And if we delay the FMP process, which I mean, not approving this contract would do potentially, then we would be behind other schools and may not even be able to qualify for it if those funds get spent out. Is that correct? I mean, there's a lot of money coming, so hopefully they wouldn't get spent out, but I thought it was in order.
Feels very fear-based. I would be more nuts and bolts dollar based, but yeah, if you're worried, I guess that we're gonna lose a spot in the queue, maybe Josh has an answer for that.
Yeah, so it's definitely a queue. It's date order submission with the Office of Public School Construction. I will mention that Prop 2 passage, there's like $3.6 billion worth of projects that are already in the queue that the Proposition 2 will fund. So yes, I mean, there's, again, being date order, we need to get through a facilities master planning process to develop an initial project to submit to the state to get into the queue. So that's the timeline. That's the process.
And the timeline for this, if this is approved tonight, what does that look like moving forward?
Yeah, they're projecting 5 months. So by the end of the school year, they're projecting that they will have a final facilities master plan, again, draft version that have been vetted by the board for adoption prior to the end of the school year.
Okay, thank you. So it's not going to happen tomorrow regardless. Thank you.
If this was a concert PA or security for a concert or anything concert related, I'd be able to address it, but it's not. It's like, this is a world that I don't know. That's why that's your job, right? It's like for you to figure that out. If I could speak to this, and be, with any kind of knowledge at all, I'd feel comfortable being critical about it, but I can't. So, one of my concerns is, again, it's like things about delaying it is things continually just get more and more expensive, even though inflation has come down. But it's like we went to great effort to get this bond passed. And now and I think the community would like to see us get going too. And I don't know what it really costs. I have to trust Josh. So, I mean, I'm okay to move forward with it just because I cannot speak to critically about it with any kind of knowledge base at all. I can't. But I don't want to delay it either. Any board members, anything else?
I'm in agreement with what you're saying. I mean, I work in the medical field. I could not tell you if project initiation is $2,793, and I couldn't tell you if capacity and utilization analysis is $10,003. I don't have that information. I trust that you are fully qualified to understand what all of this means, and I'm comfortable saying that I don't know what these things are. I also would be uncomfortable with him going to this company and saying $30,000 unless you know what these things are and you know the going rates of them. I don't think that that's a good idea. It does say in the contract, we take pride in customizing our clients' needs, and we will work with you to ensure our fees are aligned with your expectations and budget. In bold. So if we can make this work tonight, I'd like to get this moved through and get moving on it. If this is something that needs to be completed so that we can get matching funds, then let's move forward.
I agree with you. I would like to ask Josh, do you feel we need to spend 99,000 or is there some wiggle room on this? Maybe you could enlighten us on that.
Yeah, I would say that, so I did look at some of the other needs assessments and facilities master plans that have been done in our county. I mean, it's tough to look at comparable districts, right? I mean, we have certain comparable districts that haven't done this in a while, but you could look at some of the larger districts. And I mean, larger districts are spending anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 on facility master plans with a needs assessment done on the front end of that, which there was a cost associated with that as well. So when I looked into that and in comparison, I felt like that the price that MGT brought us was like commensurate with the actual number of sites that we have, the number of facilities we have. That's what I felt bringing it forward. But, as everyone has mentioned tonight, there was quite a few general obligation bonds that passed on Tuesday night, like a lot. In fact, our neighboring districts, I think all of them did. So capacity can be an issue for, I mean, this is just one firm. And we do have a relationship with them now that just goes back to this summer. But as I mentioned before, I felt confident bringing this forward, not only in the number, but in kind of the scope and their delivery method with us that made me confident that they could deliver for us. And again, for the price, yes, there's a question about that, but it definitely is not coming directly from the general fund right now. And you are correct, Trustee Carolyn, that the district has transferred $200,000 per annum from the general fund to support Fund 40 and Fund 14. I will mention that prior to that, there was many years of the revenue coming in to build up that fund. It just wasn't the fund amount that we wanted to be, that we wanted for sustainability in a district that didn't have a deferred maintenance plan. But I'm very comfortable with the numbers that they presented to me. Their initial contract for the facilities needs assessment, I believe, was around $62,000. So, and then we looked at that kind of as phase one. But this is a heck of a lot more detailed and comprehensive as well. So I feel like scope and scale kind of does tie to the cost.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. So this is still action discussion item A, isn't it? I'm going to make a motion to move forward, and I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from me, a second from Trustee McNary. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
All right, passes 4-1.
I know. First. You said anyone opposed?
Yeah, I don't know. I just
Opposed. I said yes. I'm
opposed. Yes, yeah. Or nay. All right. All right, passes 4-1. Board, I think it'd be nice to take a little bio break for everybody, if that's cool. And I'm going to call it in at 7 minutes and 39 seconds. And this alarm will go off at that point. Thank you. We'll see you in a bit. We're coming back. Thanks, everybody. Moving on to action discussion B. You know what? I looked at this. I had to look up the word, and I don't even know how to pronounce it though. Annuitant? 24, 25 annuitant fiscal officer salary schedule. I only beg that when this comes up again, we can find a different word than annuitant. But that said, whose is this? Assistant Superintendent Joshua Jorn.
Yes, this is for the annuitant salary schedule for the fiscal officer sub that we have been using since, we're actually not using any longer now that we have a fiscal officer in place, who is Carly Adams, who was my executive admin assistant, who is absolutely thriving in the role as the fiscal officer right now. But yes, we needed to bring an annuitant salary schedule forward for PERS reporting because our annuitant is retired and is in CalPERS, and we did not have the sub salary schedule posted on our website. So this is simply a formality at this point. She's been working with us since last April. She has moved on to work with another district at this point as well. She failed retirement. I think she was retired for 3 months when she came over here to help us at PGUSD. I have a 17-year relationship with her, and I will tell you that this district was very fortunate to have her come in at the time that we brought her in to help kind of support our fiscal office in light of losing our fiscal officer last spring. So not much more to say associated with that other than we do need to have a publicly posted salary schedule for CalPERS, and that's what I'm bringing forward tonight for approval.
Thank you so much for the explanation. Let's go out to public comment. Anyone online? Seeing no one online. Anyone in the room with anything? I'm not seeing anyone. Going on then to board discussion. Board. Carolyn's saying no. Jen, no. Trustee Otmar. Good pizza. Good. All right. Trustee, that was not meant as a slight. That was not. Trustee Dr. Hazen.
No, thanks for the clear presentation.
Okay, nothing from me. So I'm going to make a motion to approve action discussion item B. Can I see a second?
I'll second.
All right. I made the motion, second from Dr. Hazen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. Great. Thank you so much. And now moving on to action discussion item C, certification of resource 6770 Prop 28. Again, Assistant Superintendent Joshua Jorn, all yours.
Thank you very much. So this is another formality for this district. This is associated with the certification of expenditures for the last fiscal year 23-24, tied directly to Proposition 28, which is now Resource 6770. We had no expenditures last year. The rationale for that, of course, was we received the revenue last year. We built out an expenditure plan, which was brought to this board on June 6th for our expenditures in 2024. The expenditures for this year are $221,684. Again, that was approved by the board on June 6th. We do have to certify expenditures annually, and we have to post it on our website. So this is us reporting that there were 0 expenditures last year. I will bring this forward again in the 25-26 year, but before that, we will have another expenditure plan that the board will approve for that fiscal year.
Great. All right. Thank you for that explanation. Let's first go out to public comment. Anybody online? Seeing nobody online. Anyone in the room wishing to speak on this item? Seeing no one. Let's now go to the board. I've got nothing. Board. All right. Seeing nothing from the board as well. Can I get a motion to move forward with action discussion item C?
Also move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from trustee Dr. Hazen and a second from trustee McNary. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay.
That's okay.
Who did that?
Professionalism. What's going on?
Passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to action. It's only going to get worse, people. Action discussion item D, proposed board calendar. Dr. Adamson, please, all yours.
All right, yes, so really no changes. The dates are as they are for the next immediate meetings. I think we had at one point thought we could possibly do away with the November 21st meeting, but we do for sure have one closed session item. My hope is that that's it, and we just need closed session, and we have no intention of putting anything else on the agenda unless there's a necessity. So, but at this point, we're keeping the date on.
Okay.
Other than that.
So, and is there any public comment on the proposed board calendar? Okay, and I don't think there's anything from the board. And because there are no changes, I don't think we even need to act on this, correct? All right.
Yes, no.
No, we don't have
Yes,
to
no,
approve
you
it unless
may-
there's a change.
Yes,
don't.
no, we don't.
No.
Okay. All right. Now we're moving on to the information discussion part of the agenda. Item A, presentation on nutrition service program update from Director Silvera. Great visuals coming with this one too.
Get the color version. Yay. Where's this water bottle? Put it down.
Okay, we're on. All right. Good evening, everyone. Just want to start by saying thank you for the platform here tonight, because we don't have a lot of opportunity to go into detail about our department. So I'm going to try and take advantage of that. And I have it written out so that I can try and speak a little bit more eloquently than perhaps I do sometimes. So it's basically that time of the year where we review how last year ended up and then what we're kind of focusing on for the upcoming year. All right. So the first thing we're going to review is the 903. I think it's like delayed. I pressed it too many times when I was doing everything I was trying to do. So now does this not work? Oh, that really backfired on me. Okay. Next slide, please. So we are looking at, we've already talked about 18 and 19 last year when I did this, but I think it is helpful for reference. So that is pre-COVID and before California initiated the Universal Meals Program. Last year's numbers are obviously an extreme increase to the program, and that was our first year together. This year is also trending for a large increase in our meals served. And with that, I wanted to make a note for trends in my future presentations to you. If we go 300% improvement year over year, I cannot keep that momentum, literally. So, we're going to keep that pace and do everything we can to do great, but just I can't always present a 300% increase. So this chart right here is showing the first 2 months of 2023 versus the first 2 months of 2024. And I switched it to participation counts because it takes away the enrollment factor, because it shows the popularity of the program as opposed to just there was more kids, so more kids, more meals were served out. So breakfast 30% and 25% in the 2 months, and lunch is 20% for both months year over year. The first 2 months of last year is when we really started doing some of our bigger changes. So I feel that the large increase since then has proven the success of the changes and shows the hard work of the teams at the sites that have put in, and their willingness and excitement to try new things and adapt to a lot of the new things that I've been throwing their way. I also wanted to add some context for these numbers and some topics that I'm going to bring up. For myself, this is my 10th year in K-12. 5 have been as a director and 5 have been with a private company as a consultant for a food service management company. So it's not my staff. I'm the consultant there helping them with this stuff. So I'd make a lot of recommendations to programs that'll be more relevant in the upcoming slides. So our goal with them, because our revenue was tied to meal counts, was to increase maybe 2 or 3% or kind of stay even. I've never seen anything like this before. And I think that's something special with this team and this district, and also my colleagues back here that are so involved in the mealtime. So I thank you for all your guys' support as well. This is a comparison of how we line up against the state average participation rates and how much other districts are feeding. So California as a whole only feeds 30% of their population for breakfast, where we serve 61%. For lunch is 65 versus 55. And a lot of tonight's information is to give a better view of what is going on at the sites that is kind of hard to market to the public and to you guys. So I'm trying to give a more in-depth look at the whys and hows of our program and show you what our kids are getting at the sites. So with that in mind, breakfast looks like this because a lot of districts still don't even offer a breakfast program, or they have a 5 minutes at 8:15. They're open for 5 minutes for some of the kids coming in, or they have a very shortened offerings list that they're giving to their kids. At our elementaries, we have 3, sometimes 4 different breakfast items that are available for them, along with our fruit salad bar. And the upper grades, we do 7 or 8 items a day as offered. Okay, I want to go through a couple regulation and industry information. As far as nutritional components, USDA, which we're governed by, has restrictions on grains, sodiums, fats, calories, no deep or flash frying in oil, different categories of the vegetables that we need to offer, to name a few, but there is no limits on the amount of sugar that we are regulated to serve. They are finally addressing sugar in 2025 with limits on just milk and yogurt with a 10-gram maximum, which chocolate milk itself is already at 8. So I feel like they're putting a restriction on that really doesn't have any teeth because we're already under it anyways. And with that math, you could have the milk and yogurt for breakfast and be at 20 grams of sugar. And with a daily recommendation of 25, you're already quite there. One side note about milk restrictions, because I have some students that ask for like 2% or whole or something that they prefer more at home. So we have to serve 2 varieties. but cannot go above 1%. And the chocolate milk with the added sugar is compliant, but at 2% with no sugar is not compliant. For whatever ties there are above me. Aside from that, a program-wide restriction on sugar is in the works, but not until 2027. And that I don't know what exactly they'll bring it to, but we're still several years away from that impacting. And I bring this up because it affects our industry as a whole, which affects our end consumer. As you will see in upcoming slides, we have self-imposed an added sugar limit for our program, and with that have lost the majority of our breakfast bread options. Manufacturers have been making these high sugar products for many years, and there is nothing telling them yet that they don't have to change the way they're doing things. The majority of districts in our state and US do purchase these high sugar products, so the incentive is not there to change. Examples of muffins and cinnamon buns, which are a very common and liked product, and they probably have 30 or so varieties in our catalog to be able to purchase. There are literally 0 options that fall in our new sugar guidelines, so I can't serve anything anymore. So I'm hoping that when the regulations kick in 2027, everyone will have to conform to that, and there will suddenly be healthier things to buy. Okay, so this I just have 2 of these examples and comparisons. So the product on your left, you'll see in the description it says 100% compliant. It's 100% compliant not only for breakfast and lunch, but also marketed as Smart Snack compliant and CACFP eligible. Smart Snack is if we were to still be selling a la carte items and doing cash. CACFP is an after school snack and dinner program that is based more on free and reduced numbers. So we do not qualify for any of those types of programs, but you can see it's well marketed for that. The product is packaged in bulk. It's very easy in the production phase of like doing parfaits. And because it's the most popular, it only has a 2-day lead time. And that's the one with 16 grams of added sugar right there. The product on the right is our new yogurt. It has 0 sugar and double the protein in the same serving size. It is packaged in bulky and harder to handle packaging and has a 14-day lead time. And because of the way we order 6 days to our delivery, we have to try and plan 3 weeks ahead, which from now until then, as far as forecasting and trying to figure out our fridge space, is a gap of 12,000 breakfasts until we know 3 weeks ahead, trying to guess what we're going to need to be purchasing. One last note about this yogurt change is the reality of what we're doing. I can assure you that students are going to like the 16 grams product a lot better than what this is. So I would not be surprised if some meal counts went down for the things that we're doing, but the overall program is a much healthier program. Yeah, thank you. So the second one is French toast sticks. Again, the higher sugar product has low lead times, and I guarantee is also served with sugar syrup. Our French toast on the right is more product. It actually weighs more and has less sugars, so you're getting more for that. But has a longer lead time than the more popular one. And we've also stopped serving syrup at breakfast, and we do a mixed berry, either fresh or a reduction that has no sugar additives into it. Okay, so with that, our actual breakfast changes. We created a 10-gram added sugar limit. One product at the high school has 10. 1 or 2 of the cereals has 9, but everything else has an average of probably 4 or 5 grams for breakfast. The chocolate milk has been removed from the breakfast offering, meaning that breakfast itself can't be would average about 7 or 8. If they drink a chocolate milk at lunch, you're at 8, which leaves 8 to 10 left for dinner to still stay under the 25-gram recommendation. I wrote balancing act there because there are issues with the sugar and issues with sodium that come up, but we do have to balance students actually eating as well. You're trading some sugar for kids actually drinking the calcium, protein, and minerals. You have some sodium in their lunch, but they actually might like the lunch a little bit more because it has more layers to flavor. And now they're full of the energy from the carbs and protein to grow. So just that there are different sides to the argument of why we are where we are. We added a low sugar yogurt as a daily option, and we do weekly parfaits and smoothies. On an environmental side, we also have added bulk condiment dispensers, eliminating individual packets. We've changed our juice containers to non-straw options. And thanks to Director Anderson and Custodial, we have added much more compost bins and daily pickups because we fill them up faster than they used to pick up. So now we have all that extra added in. Lastly, our savory no sugar breakfast editions are all made at the school, not prepackaged. And I wanted to just clarify something. The products we bring in will not be raw. Last year, we talked a little bit about speed scratch cooking. We have a high risk clientele, so we will never be bringing in raw meat. It's going to come pre-cooked. And we also get commodity funding from USDA that actually funnel us into products that we are going to need to buy. So they send chickens to Tyson, and then we get a discounted price. So then we need to order from Tyson. So the patties that we buy are very strategically picked. They're not just some random chicken patty that we get on there. Also, I emphasize that most of our breakfast are not wrapped items. Like this is commonly seen because breakfast is a very tricky meal to provide. The service time is early in the day, usually giving us about an hour and a half or so in the morning from when they start their day. And there's more to the start of the day than just getting right into production. So our middle school, for example, serves breakfast at 10:15. That gives us 5 total labor hours to produce and serve 300 breakfasts a day. That would be a 60 meal per labor hour call on them, which is much higher than is really possible to do. So we have all the time constraints and about $4 to feed the students breakfast and lunch at the standards that we're trying to get to. And milk is 41 cents. And in 2019, it was 22. So we're at like 100% increase. Yikes. Okay, so that was a lot of that stuff. Now I have some full pictures. This our elementary menu. I highlighted some of the recent changes, but just about everything on there has been reformulated over the past year from what it used to be. Almost everything on here and the rest of our menus is these staff members buying in completely with what we're doing and excited to keep doing more and love feeding our kids. The lasagna on there is us making it. The ingredients have a 4-week lead time, but so I'm at the store myself buying the ingredients for us to make it, but it's not the old frozen lasagna that we have had previously. I think it's next. So we have fresh basil and marinara, homemade croutons there on the salad from Miss Fran at Forest Grove. The second picture, I thought the parents would like to see what the kids are actually seeing when they're walking through the line to get their food, because you guys don't get to see that. So this day we had 4 different options there. And this is a comparison picture that I thought would be well. On the right is a packaged burrito that is very widely used in K-12. And again, I've been with a lot of districts on the consulting side, so I've bought that several times. The picture on the left is our burrito made on site. The packaged burrito has a 2-day lead time, and the tortillas to make the burrito have a 2-week lead time. Okay, again, the picture on the right is something that has been served here, and kids do like it. I mean, but we've replaced it by making our own with our own salsas. And then there's one last picture of our elementary. So yeah, so what they're seeing through there. Go ahead to the next one. The middle school and high school have a very similar menu with slight tweaks. 4 of the 5 specials here are brand new to this year, and 4 of the 5 deli items are new just to this year, just to show how much change year to year we're doing. And then we have one picture from the middle school next, and then we'll go to the high school. Okay. All right. High school menu, some of the new breakfast options. Oh, sorry, go ahead and go to the next one. So we have some of our new breakfast options and some of our new subs and salads. And the next, please. So the enchiladas we did here, for reference, the last time that I pitched this to a district, their reactions, like, you want us to roll these ourselves. And I routinely got shot down for stuff like that. So this team is very good at what they're doing. One last picture, and then good. And we just have a couple like project-based next steps for us, but it's been a really busy 3 months. So I think, this is just a couple of things that throw up there, but the last 3 months have been really good for us. And I think that's it.
Board. Well, actually, we have to go to public comment first. Everybody just hold on. We have somebody online. All right, let's bring him in.
Good evening, it's Lyndon Tarver calling from the NAACP. I apologize for not being in person. I got my flu vaccination today, so I got a little sniffles. Just a question about the portion sizes from the middle school versus the high school. Are the portions the same or are they larger for high school students?
The portion sizes, oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead,
Okay,
please.
that's a good one, yeah.
That's a good question. You know what that?
Yes, they are the same. The entree itself, which I separate from the other components, the milk and the salad bar, the core grain and meat are the same serving size, middle to high, and then they have whatever they want from the salad bar and milk.
Thank you. Anybody else online with a question? Anybody in the room for members of the general public? Sure.
Yeah, you can ask a question, but it can't be answered, right?
Laura Legona from the high school. I just want to thank Director Silvera for this meal program. I have a senior at the high school. She plays 3 sports a year. She has the option to leave campus almost every day. And she doesn't. And I noticed that a lot of her friends also stay and have the lunches. It also makes it a lot easier for me because I can't tell you how many pounds of turkey I bought that went bad in my refrigerator because nobody would make themselves a sandwich. So thank you for that too. And I do want to say, having a kid who lives on a steady diet of Chipotle, she often comes home. I don't even ask. She just comes home and talks about the food. The salsa apparently is very good. So that's a high recommendation because we eat a lot of salsa at my house. But I regularly hear about how good or bussin' your food is. So I really appreciate it because I remember the days when we were all kids. My great grandma was actually a cafeteria worker, and we would get. I do miss the cinnamon rolls. I'm not going to lie about that, but I would get so excited about the turkey and gravy day, and I saw that on the menu, and I'm like, oh, it's back. So I just really appreciate that. For a long time, I feel like school lunches were like, we'll just give them whatever. They're kids. It doesn't matter. I mean, I know we all like the taco nada, but there's no nutritional value to it. And it wasn't enough for the kids. So a lot of times there wasn't enough fruits and vegetables for them to get. And so especially the athletes, they would be eating like 2 or 3 lunches. I had a student once, I'm like, why are you always eating lunch in class? And he's like, oh, this is my second lunch. So he was a big kid and a big athlete. So I really appreciate that we're looking at kids like human beings and that we're giving them options that they're willing to eat. So it takes the fight out of parenting and getting your kid and knowing that my kid isn't hungry all day and then coming home and eating everything in sight. So thank you so much because it is great to see this.
Great. All right, thank you so much. I have another public comment.
Sorry. Hi, Abby Arbor, principal at Forest Grove. I just wanted to say thank you to Robert and also Fran and Carmen because they put in so much effort and kindness and love into the food. And our kids are so excited. they borderline argue over who's in line first for taco day. Orange chicken is huge. The parfaits are amazing. The smoothies are great. I can't even tell you how many blenders Fran initially went through, but they are just, our staff is all in on it. And I am so proud of them. I've never had a food service staff like this in my almost 20 years. They're great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none in the room, let's go to the board. Start in the middle. Trustee Otmar, you got anything?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry that I've been throwing up little heart symbols at you. I gotta tell you that I am just ecstatic that you're doing this and that you have such a great team behind you. I think we all know, I mean, I do love sugar, but we all know that it is not conducive to learning. You jack a kid up on sugar and then ask them to sit still in a chair afterwards. It's like, so you're feeding their brains and their bodies, and I'm just so grateful. My boys like spaghetti and tacos, and they have been coming home. They're eating nachos, and they're eating this and that, and smoothies and parfaits, and they're so excited about it. So I'm gonna have to start making those things at home so I don't have to keep eating spaghetti and tacos all the time. But thank you very much. It is appreciated and noticed, and I don't have words to describe how grateful I am, because nutrition is, even though I just ate pizza, but I'm a firm believer that nutrition really is, I mean, it's the heart of health. It's where health starts. It's where brain health starts. It's where body health starts. So I'm just so grateful to you. Thank you very, very much for taking such good care of our kids.
Who else? Jump in.
I'll just go quickly and say what almost everyone has said, but that, my son came, actually, I think it was before school, but he was like, they have egg and cheese breakfast sandwiches today. And like his eyes just lit up. Like, so again, that's not usually what you think about when you think of school lunches. So it says something about our district and the work that you guys have done here that, I mean, it's awesome. And I just love seeing the choices, the customizability, again, the whole health part here. I hope this free lunches, if we can tell people in the state to keep funding them, this is about as important as it gets to start getting our kids' brains working right. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing all of your amazing work with us. This is so fun, and we don't get to see much about nutrition. I feel like you guys are one of the departments who are mostly behind the scenes. And I love that without us really even knowing, you're taking so many initiatives to give our kids more opportunities to access their education. I know as the parent of two middle schoolers, your comment about the turkey sandwich lunch meat going to waste is so relatable, because I could not negotiate my way into my kids eating any kind of breakfast or taking a lunch. But now, I mean, as the options improve, they come home and share that they ate at school today. Great. Like, you can learn if you ate at school today. And then now they're having, like you said, the egg sandwiches that I hear very good things about. I love that we're doing this. I love that kids are going to get more options. I love that we're making healthier choices. I love that we're taking some of the burden off of families, because it is a lot of energy and money and time to feed your kid. One question I had, and it came from Mr. Tarver asking about portions, was how do seconds work?
How do seconds work? We don't want any food to go to waste, so it's always available. So we forecast to what we believe the numbers will be, because that's what our budgetary duty is. And then if we have 10 leftovers, we wait for the first to get through, and then it's available for seconds.
That's all for me. Thank you.
Carolyn?
Thank you, Robert, for your presentation. Thank you so much. So I think we've always dreamed about food service being like this. And even though I'm on the board, like, how did we get here? Did we just have a dream for it? Or like, was there a goal? Was it part of the I mean, I know we have free lunches, but really, truly, we've had wonderful food service directors. I think each one has built upon the last. And so I've seen that progression over the years, but it's just so interesting to see this. Like, I mean, I really have daydreamed about this, like real food. You can see the ingredients, you know, they're not just being reheated in plastic as much as we can. But how did this happen? And I'm asking because I want it to continue. So
I'd
like,
love-
do we need to put funding over here or what?
Understood. Yeah, I'd love for that. Actually, I'm going to address that question to Assistant Soup John to really speak about the pro.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that it was kind of, you know, this was in the works with, you know, Stephanie when she was here. And then when Robert came on board, I mean, this is like a collaborative team effort. I mean, I can't stress enough how important it is that, you know, he has buy-in, Robert does in the entire food services division. And I think this was something that was really important with the team for a very, very long time. They talked about speed scratch cooking and doing more and having more offerings. But I know for a fact that when Robert came on board with us in the district, this was kind of like his number one priority was to expand the menu, have more healthier food, better content available on the website, which has been amazing, right? To show our families what your students are eating. But again, I mean, this was kind of, you know, this was his vision. And I think, again, it was a collaborative effort with his team. Correct me if I'm wrong.
But at what direction? I mean, like, did it come from the superintendent? I really want to know so that we can keep it going. Because if Robert moves on, like, how do we keep this going? And I want us to be known for this. You know, when Assemblymember Dawn Addis comes and she says, what are we doing that's innovative? Yes, we have the Flex Lab, but I want food service to be known. So
I'm not sure what direction, but I think that Mr. Phil would be, I think it was before I started, it was before November 3rd. I have a feeling.
Okay, well, when we're doing district goals and anything else, let's.
I just want to add again, though, I don't think this would have been possible without Robert. I mean, this is like so. No, not at all. I'm saying that when you say like, how did this happen? Sometimes when you hire the right people and
Absolutely. He has to have the funding, he has to have like the support, you know, for it. And we should, Best from also saying policy from the seats, but we should look at our nutrition policy. We should codify this because this will be fantastic. Our district should keep this going.
Director Silveira, could you speak a little to it?
Yeah, I think a big thing that initiated was the switch over to universal meals. I come from a high free reduced couple districts, so I've always had kind of high participation. I think that was a big impetus to it that we have adapted to and raised staffing levels. The staff has been open to everything. I don't want to talk about myself. I mean, just for me, I've been kind of handcuffed with my third party consultant role in the past. And now I don't have those handcuffs and I can be in a self-op district. So now I can do what I have envisioned for. And maybe why it's not discussed a lot or known a lot is because I take pride in them not having to worry about our program and the principals not having to worry about so that they can educate. And I can, you know, I know what I'm doing and I don't want them to worry about it. So maybe that's why it's not a topic at hand at all times.
Okay, well, policy it is.
I'm just going to add though, I think this comes down to leadership, right? And it's a critical piece of having the right people in the right positions. And I think that's what comes through from Robert. I mean, you can see it and hear it, and you've all mentioned it, but you know, you hear it from Assistant Soup John, who, you know, sort of oversees that department, but you hear it from the principals and the staff at the sites as well about who Robert is. And I think, again, a little bit of just that culture that he's been able to develop with the teams and the people that he works with as well. And I think, you know, that's the piece that, yes, you know, you capture that and, you know, you want to duplicate that, right? Yeah. Ultimately, yes, it definitely starts with the right people and Robert's that. We see that and he's amazing.
It's even measurable. I mean, I'm so proud of your department because of you and all the team. Thank you so much for having those measurable goals of the sugar grams. And I mean, like, you're not just saying, oh, we do a great job. You're proving in numbers what you're doing. And it's just so refreshing and wonderful. Is there any way possible, or is it just impossible Because I always feel like our test scores must have improved. Some part of our education must have improved with these amazing strides in food service, even with our just the start of free meals, you know, including 2 meals a day. Do we have anything like that, or is it just so bundled into one thing that it's hard to pull out and say, oh, it was this one thing that did it?
I mean, I definitely think it's one of the things that contributes
Yeah.
towards the growth that we see. You know, we talk about a holistic approach, right, to, you know, what the achievement of our students. And I think when you see all of, and you can check all of those boxes, right, I think, yes, you know, food services, you know, health and nutrition is one of them, right? Social and emotional learning is another important piece of it. When students feel those immediate needs are met, you know, I think we talk about Maslow needs all the time, right? So, I mean, those are some of the most essential needs. Students need to feel, you know, they're clothed, that they're not hungry as they're coming to school. And, you know, I think what we're hearing too is it's not only that, but they're actually excited about the food that they're eating, right? So I think when students are happy, we're going to see better results. And this is one of those factors that contributes to that. So, you know, whether we can actually define it and measure it, you know, but if we're providing and providing all of those supports, we're going to see the growth, right? And that's one of them.
What a great trajectory. Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you for all that.
Yep, absolutely fabulous. Food looks great. Be proud. You should be. I know you are. I know it's hard for you. And you have a great staff, and you heard it from everybody here, people talking about their kids coming home, talking about food. That doesn't happen. So thank you again for that. And the presentation. So we're going to move on now.
Can I say one just quick? Sorry.
Yes,
This may not even be a start. No, this could be a non-starter, but like Taste of PG, they have, you know, they focus on, I mean, is that something we could participate in? I mean, would that cost us the district money, or is that something that Taste of PG would support? Because this is the kind of thing where we could highlight that to community. I mean, just a thought to throw out there.
Sidebar that maybe next.
Future agenda item.
All right.
I'll throw it out.
All right. Thank you so much. Moving on, information discussion. Item B, we know a couple of people waiting for this, current practices and policies related to cell phone usage among students while on school campus. Dr. Adamson and Superintendent, Principal O'Meara.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I was just going to say he's welcome to come and take. We'll switch places for that. All right. So yes, this is really an item that we're bringing back. You'll recall that we had presented some information about our cell phone policy and usage at our school sites a few months back. And at that time, Principal O'Meara was very new to his position. And so we had presented some information. He had presented a little bit about some of the actions that he was intending on taking. And we promised to really bring that back for an update. And so that's what we're here tonight. The first few slides, I'm just going to sort of open it up. If we can, you know, put that slide presentation up. And really you'll notice and you'll recognize the first two are really just duplicates of what we presented in the last presentation. And this is really for the purposes of to be able to remind everyone here this evening, what does our current board policy, that's 5131.8, say? And so the highlights of this is currently our policy states that, you know, students should not be permitted to utilize their cell phones during instructional time, but it does allow for the use of it during their lunch and free time while on campus. The second paragraph there really just talks about some of the, yes, you know, students should not be accessing their cell phones during class time, except under the following circumstances. And, you know, the 4 situations for that are listed, whether it's an emergency or response to danger. Teacher or administrator may go ahead and provide that permission. There may be a specific lesson that teachers are asking, you know, for students to access them for the purposes of identifying information, health or medical reasons, or if it's required by the student's IEP or 504 plan. This second slide, I've added one slight addition to it, but you'll recall we wanted to provide a summary of recent legislative actions that have taken place within the state of California. If you'll recall, back in 2019, in July, Governor Newsom signed AB 272, which put into law and specified school districts had the authority to regulate the use of smartphones during school hours. And then 2024, more recently in September, Governor Newsom signed AB 32016, which was the Phone Free School Act. And really this required all school districts to go ahead and put into and adopt a policy that limited or prohibited the use of smartphones. And that was needs to be effective as of July 1st, 2026. You'll recall when we presented this before that we really talked about the fact that Pacific Grove is ahead of the game in this regards because we have had a policy in place for a while and have been enforcing that. One element that has recently been added and that we're aware of, you'll recall that we had presented at the end of the last presentation that we were going to be moving forward in adapting an administrative regulation policy, which would be the purpose of which would be to support our current board policy because we did not have one. We had actually brought language forward to our policy committee meeting, which we held a few weeks back. And really through, in-depth discussion, it was really determined by the committee because of the fact that we have recently found out that CSBA is going to be bringing forward language for policy language for districts to utilize in March of 2025. And so we really felt that, if we come forward and we go ahead and adopt an administrative regulation policy, we're just going to have to turn around and, make changes to that come March. So we really made the decision, it's the recommendation of the committee to delay and hold. We utilize that information and that language to really determine and put together oh goodness, Assistant Soup Dawn, I forget it, the SOP, which is thank you, standard operation policy. And so essentially we're going to be utilizing that language and the work that Assistant Soup Dawn did with our principals. And, that's not going to go to waste. And so, that's really the recommendation where we are at this point. And then really the last slide before I'm going to turn it over to Principal O'Meara just really reflects a little bit of the current practices. We had identified in the last presentation that the high school handbook supports practices reflected by the current board policy. As you'll recall, what we had talked about at that time was that it wasn't necessarily being implemented consistently across classrooms at the high school. And so there have been updates since then that, Principal O'Meara will speak to. And just 3 bullets that I'm highlighting under the current approach to the implementation of that board policy. Currently, the rules and regulations at the high school are that cell phone use is prohibited during instructional time unless staff permission is given. In accordance with board policy, students are currently permitted to use their devices during lunch and nutritional breaks. And then the last one, at this point, there is more consistent implementation by staff and administration. And what we're also seeing, and I've kind of had a chance to actually see it myself firsthand during my visits with Principal O'Meara, that our ASB leadership group is really coming up with creative ways to engage and really entice, and encourage students to stay on campus, for some of the activities that they're presenting. And really what you're seeing a lot of is during those times is, students are engaging with each other. But I will say as well is, I've been very intentional on observing and just watching students as they're engaging at lunchtime and break times, in between period times. And, it really isn't to the degree that we're seeing all of these students on their phones. And, they really, I've had that chance to see them at lunchtime, during their periods, you're really connecting with one another. I would say it's more of the rarity that in my experience of what I've seen in my firsthand observation, students on their cell phones. You'll see it occasionally as they're walking from one period to another. But, it's definitely not the norm. And so really, I think what I would love is for, Principal O'Meara to share a little bit of some of the actions that he has taken based on, what he had proposed a few months back. So with that, I hand it over to you, Principal O'Meara.
Yes, good evening. As Dr. Adamson mentioned, we at the August 8th board meeting, we kicked off our discussions around digital literacy and specifically cell phones. And at the conclusion of that meeting, I did commit to continue the conversation around the topic. And Dr. Adamson just the phrase she used was actions taken. Well, the action taken from then until now has primarily been conversation and dialogue. getting a pulse of where we are as a school, as a staff, as a community with my stakeholders. At that August 8th meeting, I did commit to, like I said, continuing that conversation. And as you can see, there were several forums to which we were able to continue the conversation. I've listed, I think they're in chronological order. Just the forums that we were engaged in the cell phone conversation. Our site leadership meetings, our parent teacher association meetings, both general and board meetings, our faculty meeting, just different forums as we kind of walk through the school year or sprint through the school year, I should say. Obviously, I have many forums that I'm able to facilitate conversation in. Now, just listing these dates, it's just simply kind of a roadmap of the actual times we've been able to talk. But in the forums, these are official meetings where I've agendized the conversation around cell phones. And I know that sounds general, conversation around cell phones. What does that really mean? Well, in these forums, we have concentrated on essentially three essential questions and or topics. First of all, the question is, are we aware of the policy? Right. And as we walk through these meetings, we really had to start from scratch and just in making sure that everyone is aware of the policy, aware of the board policy, and aware of our actual school policy. Once we had that dialed in, obviously the second question or essential item is, how are we supporting the policy? How are we functioning as a school to support our board policy and to support our school site policy? And then last but not least, in this first wave of conversation, and probably the most important piece is, are we implementing the policy consistently? So as you can imagine, those three essential questions, going from easiest to most difficult, the conversations have been a variety of calm to spirited, to say the least. But excellent conversations. And it's really been eye-opening for me as a new principal to see kind of where we are, and just as Principal Adamson, I'm sorry, I just gave you a demotion. I apologize. Sorry. Superintendent Adamson, you alluded to earlier, is that, I'm really excited to walk around and see as many students as I do that are engaged with each other. And are there students on cell phones? Absolutely. But in comparison to other places that I've been, I can honestly say that my observation is that I'm pleasantly surprised at the level of engagement and student interaction. So that being said, let's move forward here. Again, in each of these each of these meetings and with the agenda around cell phones and the essential questions that I've just reviewed, I've just kind of developed some takeaways, some trends that have emerged as we've been engaged in these conversations. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge that, each stakeholder group, whether it's parents, teachers, students, we all are acknowledging the importance of appropriate school use, appropriate use of cell phones, and a need for consistent implementation of the policy. There's also a universal acknowledgement of the ill effects that can and often are caused by the saturation of digital content. We want to just first and foremost acknowledge that, and in all the forums that I've been involved with, we have seen that loud and clear. We've heard that loud and clear. The second bullet point here is that students definitely thrive with social interaction. And this social interaction should be encouraged at all times. And we need to limit cell phone use and model a limiting of cell phone use both at school and at home. Another point that has emerged is that without conscientious both self and staff monitoring, cell phones can certainly hamper our face-to-face dialogue and communication, and of course, can negatively affect our students. Again, kind of related to the first point. And just kind of the final kind of stream or takeaway that I've surmised after all this initial round of conversation is that cell phones can certainly be used in a negative manner, cyberbullying, overuse of social media, but can also be used as a viable supplement for instruction. As I walk around and see different things that are going on, I have seen cell phones used by students in class productively. So those are just some takeaways. And again, I thought that might be a better, at the risk of being too general, but bringing to you the agenda minutes of 9 separate meetings over the last 3 months. I felt this would be a little bit more productive if I just identified some trends and some takeaways. Okay. Again, probably the most important group that we get feedback from, and William mentioned earlier that we have formed an advisory group, a principals advisory committee. And it got started a little late this year. And so we've only had 1 meeting and we didn't tackle the cell phone issue quite yet, but it's on the agenda for our November 20th meeting, which Dr. Adamson is graciously going to attend. So thank you for that. I also just wanted to just brag a little bit about the principal Omira and assistant principal Sean Keller traveling roadshow that unfolded during the first couple of weeks of the school year. We were able to, we made a conscientious effort and a commitment to visit all 27 English classes in our master schedule and talk to 539 students over 2 weeks. We were pretty exhausted, but it was time well spent because we were able to review our comprehensive handbook, our student handbook. But the reason I bring this up is because part of that conversation and part of that presentation was our dedication of a portion of that around digital citizenship and cell phone use. And just, going back to my original first essential question in terms of do people know the policy, right? So just having an intentional roadshow where we go out and actually explain the policy to all of our students. So I can definitely, without a doubt, tell you that 539 students were informed, and there were numerous levels of conversation around that, and we had some good conversations in class. And I just want to thank Sean for doing that with me. I'd also like to give a shout out to our staff. Self-initiating a book study. A group of our staff members at Pacific Grove High School tackled The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, and they were given homework. They gave themselves homework, I should say, to read the book, and they debriefed when we returned from our fall break. And this is just a fascinating read, and I'm sure some of us in the room have read this fascinating read around the data and the concerns around, again, I mentioned earlier the saturation of digital content that's out there. And again, this is just another example of our staff acknowledging that and wanting to move the conversation around how we can address that. So a few things that emerged from the book study and the debrief that took place after fall break. First of all, that there, an acknowledgement of data around teen anxiety and depression, concerns around a lack of student interactions due to the saturation of social media.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to because we're coming up at 10, which is our time limit unless we extend. So we need to pause for just a second and have a discussion about extending the meeting. I'm going to propose that we do. I have a number in my head. It's between 1 and 40. If anybody wants to guess what that number might be and concur. Yeah, there's quite a few things that are still on there. I think we can get through them, but I think, come on, help me out, good people here.
I was thinking 30 might be the number we need.
I think it's going to be at least till, I would say 10:45, just because we have the assessment results, presentation still. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to move that we extend the meeting until 10:45.
I'll second. Board, all in agreement, say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. All right, meeting will be extended till 10:45 for those playing at home or first time that are here. That is a hard 10:45. So if we were not done by then, mics are off. We all go home either way. So sorry to interrupt and please continue.
All right, thank you again. I pretty much just wanted to shout out to the staff and just, credit them for taking this on and continuing the conversation. And there's going to be future sessions and debriefs. We had one, and I know that the teacher that is spearheading this, Kristen Lucafor, she plans to continue the conversation. So that's just awesome. I just wanted to give a shout out there. All right, let's move forward. This is just a quick pictorial tour of an extra supportive service we provide students. We want to give them a very safe place to put their cell phones, so they're not encouraged to, or they're not tempted to use them during instructional time. These are just some different methods that we use at the school site. There's no expectation to use a bin or a box or a hanging file folder or a homemade cell phone parking lot there. The only expectation that I have is that the cell phone policy is in fact supported and enforced in classrooms and in departments. And these are just some different ways that that's being done. Just to close, again, the conversation that I committed to start has started. It's going to continue as we kind of dive down and just search for uniformity and consistency and just getting on the same page in terms of how we're approaching things at the high school. And just the key word here is to be thoughtful in our approach and take the time to collaborate and take the time to do what's best for kids. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Principal O'Meara. Let's first go to public comment. Anybody online? No one. Let's go to the room. Anybody in the room with public comment on this particular item? Seeing no one, I thought we would, but I guess not. Let's go to the board. And I'll start. Great. It's nice to see that there's an acknowledgement of what the rules are and trying to enforce them. And I'm done soon anyway. So if I had my way, again, it'd be locked up when kids came on campus and you get them at the end of the day. But that's for a different board. I would love to see you guys try that. I do wish that our student rep was here for this discussion again, but I appreciate the information. And I know it's a big battle, but it's a battle all adults face as well. So that's what I got. Moving on to the rest of the board.
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, thank you for the presentation. And most importantly, thank you for gathering input, because I think that's the part that is most needed. I think honestly, I'm excited that I think the kids will have some of the more creative ideas on how to deal with it. And I think if it's peer pressure, that'll go actually a lot further than top-down rules. So thanks. But I do agree with you, Brian, a bit as well.
Thank you very much for that. And you took the words right out of my mouth. That peer pressure a lot of times is one of the most effective things as far as one kid starts it and then it just kind of continues. It's neat to see all the solutions that they're actually kind of depositing their phones into the front of the classroom. I think cute comes to mind, but it's only because they were pretty creative ideas. I like that this is happening. I like that there was a focus on that the staff took the initiative to do that book read and focus on the anxiety that it's causing. I mean, that's huge. So I'm happy it's happening, and thank you again for the presentation and for diving into that.
Thank you for the presentation. I know we discussed this a bit during policy committee, just going round and round. I think some of the questions that are coming up here tonight, seeing that we're going to get an update on potentially the law and an AR and recommendations from CSBA in March. Doesn't really feel like there's anything to do with it right now, except continue to consistently enforce our policy as best we can. So, thanks.
Thank you. No further comment.
All right. Thanks again for that presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving on now to information discussion. Item C, review of state testing data. Dr. Hagquist, I believe this is all yours.
All right. This should take about 19 minutes. Maybe between 19 and 20. I can go faster. I can try to go faster.
Okay.
Larry Hagquist, Executive Director of Educational Services, here to present the state testing data for Pacific Grove Unified School District 2024. Next slide, please. A little bit about the assessments. It's called the CASP test, or the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. There are 4 assessments related, and they are listed right here. The SBAC test in ELA and math, the CAST test, or the science test, as well as the LPAC test, which is given to all of our English learners. And you see the grade levels that are tested for each test right there. First, a little bit about the SBAC tests in ELA and math. They're a combination of computer adaptive tests and performance tasks. By computer adaptive test, what we really mean is that the test adjusts based on the student answers given. The scores that they receive on that section of the test are combined with the performance task scores, which are a little bit deeper critical thinking questions that assess multiple standards and are usually hand graded. The CAST test, the California Science Test, does the same thing. It combines computer adaptive tests along with performance tasks, testing the next generation science standards. And finally, the LPAC assessment. This tests students' language skills in 4 domains: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. You see the domains here, and you see the breakdown of minutes that the students are given for each part of the test. You don't see beyond 8th grade here. That's because there is no time limit for above 8th grade. And on to the fun part and on the numbers, the data right here. This is great information that I have to present tonight for our school district. You'll be pleased to know that we have progress in all of our domains, and so it's just really good news. I'm going to take a little bit of extra time on this first slide because the following slides are all formatted the same way. And so just to show how to read these slides. Top left, you see 938 students. That's the number of students that took the test in 3rd through 8th grade plus 11th grade. And then you see these circles right here. And this number in the middle. The number in the middle is the number that everybody likes to look at. It's the standard met or exceeded. It combines the green area and the blue area in the circle graph. The green area is a standard met and the blue area is a standard exceeded. So when you combine those 2 percentages, you get the score in the middle. You will see for ELA, we had 72.78% of our students meet or exceed the standards, which was in that green box right there, an increase of 2.75% over the prior year. Where do you find the prior year? You find the prior year at the bottom on the left where you see 22-23. So that increase is the increase from 70.03% to 72.78%. If you look over to the right side, math, you also see an increase of 1.05% over prior year numbers. I also include on all of these slides the 2018-19 outcomes data. That's on the bottom on the right side on each one of the slides. And that's so we can see a comparison with pre-COVID numbers. You will notice here that we do see a little bit of a COVID slide. This is something that we see at the national, state, county level in a lot of areas. We're not quite back up to the pre-COVID numbers for our outcomes. Next slide, please. And this is the state and county data. I'm not going to spend very much time on the state and county slides. One thing I can say is that we, like Director Silvera said, we are ahead of state and county metrics in every single one of the categories. You'll also note that Monterey County in almost every single one of the categories is slightly behind the state of California. So Monterey County is a little bit lower than the state, and we're ahead of both in every single one. Next slide, please. This is the California Science Test. Again, you see progress over the prior year. And one interesting thing is that there was no COVID slide in science. Never did we score below where we scored in 2018-19. And an interesting thing to note on this slide is that 2018-19 was the first year that we administered the CAST test. Next slide, please. Again, you have the state and county data. Next slide, please. Here we have students with disability data, the SWD students. We had 139 students in this category. I'm going to be presenting, this is what we call the targeted populations. I'm going to be presenting 6 of our targeted populations, and this is the first one. And you'll see just exemplary outcomes. You'll notice that this year's numbers exceed the prior year numbers. They exceed the numbers 2 years ago, and they exceed the pre-COVID numbers. So that's just credit to our outstanding special ed department under the direction of Yolanda Cork Anthony. I don't know if Yolanda's right back there, but just outstanding outcomes. And here are the state and county metrics or outcomes. Moving on to the next slide. Our next targeted population, Hispanic Latino. You had 183 students. You had progress from prior year in ELA, and you had about almost exactly the same number in math. So it wasn't progress, but we're remaining kind of in the same place. And you also see a little bit of a COVID slide. Next slide, please. Here are the state and county numbers. It's no different. County is slightly behind the state. Pacific Grove is ahead of both. Next slide, please. This is our Black or African American target population. And you'll notice here, one interesting thing to note here is the low N value, which is we had 14 students across the entire district take this test. And an interesting thing about this slide is if you look at all of the different circles here, you see a lot more fluctuation, a lot more variability. And that is likely due to that low N value where one student can make a really, really big difference in the overall averages. Next slide. There's a state and county. This is one interesting one. This is the one area where Monterey County outperforms the state of California in outcomes. And moving on to our EL, our English learner population, where we had 34 students. Again, 34 is a pretty low number. Again, you see a little bit more variability in the scores down below. And something interesting about the EL population is students graduate from the EL population. They test out, they become RFEP'd or reclassified. So the students that would be scoring high in this are moving on. And I'm going to show you the RFEP slide in just a few slides here. Next slide, please. Again, state and county, same thing as all the other state and county slides. Next slide. And this is the RFEP slide. It is the reclassified fluent English proficient students. And there were 68 of them. And this is an interesting one to look at. You see progress here, but one of the ways that students get reclassified is that they have to show that they are performing at a level of native speakers. And so when you look at the math scores here, that 58.21%, that's actually higher than the general population metric, which was 57, right? So these are students that are reclassifying out of being EL and they're performing higher than the overall population. You also have that 69.12, which is very close to the 72%, which, by the way, in ELA is at the top of the county. So our RFEP students are themselves almost at the top of the county as far as that metric goes. And again, you have growth over prior year. There's the state and county on the next slide. Same thing. And our last targeted group, the SED or socioeconomically disadvantaged population. And once again, you see growth over prior year. And growth over 2 years ago. Next slide. State and county metrics, the same as all the rest. Monterey County slightly behind the state. Pacific Grove well ahead. And the next slide is a little bit of a busy one as far as all of the numbers on the screen, but I just wanted to show you that all of these categories are at the top. At the top are the same categories that you saw in the circle graphs, right? Did not meet standard, nearly met standard. And then the green and the blue, like you saw in the circle graphs, met and exceeded. And then on the far right column, that is what we were looking at in the middle of those circle graphs, the standard met or exceeded. On the left-hand side here, you have all of the grade levels for the SBAC tests, Smarter Balance tests. Students are tested in grades 3 through 8, as well as grades 11. And so this slide just is the grade level data. You still have the 2018-19 pre-COVID data, as well as the prior year and the current or last year, the 2023-24. The highlights right here just show how you can use this format to look at cohorts. What I mean by that is, let's take a look at a cohort. If you look at 4th grade for 2023-24, and you look at the standard met or exceeded, you see a 70%. And on those prior slides, we were just looking to the prior year. You know, you see growth from 68 to 70. But this cohort, these 4th graders, the prior year were 3rd graders. So when you look up on the table here, you'll see that the 3rd graders, basically that same group with just some minor changes or people that move out of the district, that same group of students went from a 67 to a 70 in their ELA score. Same thing down here. Now this number is a significant increase to 88%. That's just an impressive number for ELA outcomes. 88% of the 11th graders met or exceeded the standards. And we're thinking, wow, that is a big number. That's impressive. Who are these students? And when you trace it back, In 2018-19, those students pre-COVID were the sixth graders, and they were scoring high in sixth grade. They were at 84%. Standard met or exceeded. The next slide is the same thing for math. And you see some of the cohorts that I can highlight. You had the grade 4, grade 3 that turned into grade 4 cohort, moving down slightly in their performance from 76 to 74% meeting or exceeding. And then you had the 11th grade cohort staying the same as they were at the pre-COVID level. Next slide. And these are the CAST scores. Same format, but they only take the CAST test in 5th, 8th, and 11th grade. Down here, you'll see the 11, 12. That's because this is the first year, and this was a deliberate move on the part of the science department. It's the first year that they took the CAST tests only in 11th grade. And that 71%, it means that 71% of the 11th graders met or exceeded standards. And the performance in science, that's another area where Pacific Grove Unified is at the top of the county. Now on to the LPAC results. This is the English language proficiency assessment. And like I said earlier, students can reclassify out of EL status to become RFEP. And the first thing they need to be able to do is to score a 4 on the LPAC assessment. So these circle graphs are a little bit different than the ones that you were looking at before, because that middle number is not standard met or exceeded. That middle number means that they are proficient, which means they scored a level 4, which is well developed. And that's where, that's that dark blue strand right there. And you'll see that those two numbers, the level 4, the small number near the level 4 match the middle number right there. And so 29% of our LPAC students, our LPAC takers, are going to be eligible for reclassification. And if they meet the other requirements, they will be RFEP and they will no longer be taking this assessment. State and county metrics, things are the same here. Pacific Grove well ahead, Monterey County slightly behind the state. And that's the presentation of the data. I wanted to just share a few takeaways, highlight some strengths and some areas of growth. First of all, as you've seen, we've seen increases across all domains: ELA, math, science, and the LPAC. You've also seen growth amongst almost all of our targeted populations. And Pacific Grove Unified is at the top of the county in ELA and in science. So that's why I say in most cases, PGUSD outcomes are above state and county comparable and comparable local districts. We are always above the state and the county in each one of those domains. But it's also important to not just look at the bright spots, that there's always room for growth. And we see room for growth, continued room for growth with our targeted populations as we continue to try to elevate those scores that they can, so those targeted population scores can get closer to the overall scores that we're seeing. We would also love to be able to increase our math outcomes so that they could be as high as our English and our science outcomes. We want to continue our work with restorative justice. One of the highlights, one of the pillars of our restorative justice program is to create equitable learning environments. And that's what we're doing by continuing to focus on those targeted students. And we want to use our other professional development plan to work in professional learning communities, or PLCs, to be able to drill down, and this is already happening very much at our school sites, but we want to refine our practices with professional learning communities so that we can drill down more, use data more fluidly, and collaborate around that data so that we can continue to design interventions and continue to get better. Next slide, please. Please be reminded that what I've presented here tonight is a district level overview. It's a snapshot from what I would call an aerial perspective. But the data that's most important to our students is the data that happens in the classroom with the common assessments that our teachers are giving that help to inform the instructional decisions that the teachers make every single day. This aerial perspective that I've provided tonight is very positive, as you've seen. And it really celebrates the hard work of the experts in the classroom, the instruction that our students benefit from, and the dedication of our teachers. And I want to finish by reading a closing message. While data and numbers are essential tools in measuring progress, it's important to remember that behind every assessment result is a student, a young person with dreams, potential, and a future that is shaped by the support and opportunities we provide. The results we've shared today are not just about measuring where we've been, but also about inspiring where we can go together. We are committed to a growth mindset. We understand that every challenge is an opportunity to improve, to learn, and to grow. Our journey doesn't end with this data. It's simply the beginning of the next steps we take in ensuring that every student has the tools, the support, and the encouragement they need to reach their fullest potential. Thank you to the teachers, the support staff, the site administrators. These outcomes are a collective achievement for our district. And it's through the hard work, collaboration, and dedication of our teachers and our staff that help to make these outcomes possible. And that's my presentation for tonight. Did I beat 19 minutes? Oh, maybe not.
Yeah. I think you came in just a hair under 19.
All right.
You did, yes. So, yeah. Let's say you did. We're saying that you did. So thank you for that. Let's go out first, just a public comment. Is there anybody online? We have nobody online. Anybody in the room with public comment on this? Seeing no one, board, any comments or questions? I see people reaching for their mics, so.
I'll go quickly and just to say it is so exciting and refreshing to see the growth. I'm more concerned with our own growth than the comparisons, but it's nice to know where we stand, but it is really good to see the growth. I appreciated again the cohort view that I think it was the 11th grade class that really shows how much it sounds like elementary learning was such an important time of information loss during COVID. So it's still an area for us to consider how we bring that up and, get those numbers so that the 11th graders in 4 years are also at that 88% number. That's where, that excellence is where we want to be. Not to discount anything that's been done, but just again, shooting for that target. So thanks so much for the great presentation. Really excited with the direction we're going.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that. It was super digestible. The cohort view is, I'm going to save this because I want to go back and look at it again. I just think that it's so interesting to see the growth and to see how during COVID kids slipped like that. And to see just what you said, Elliot, that those kids that were in 6th grade and didn't experience an elementary slip during COVID maintained those scores. It's all just so interesting. And you did a fantastic job presenting. 19 minutes or doesn't even matter. It was worth every single second. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Hagquist, and for always focusing on the data. I appreciate that because it's how we drive our decisions. So can be a lot to digest, but then when we think about it, like you said, every single number is a student and that's a human and that's somebody, even if we only have 14 African-American students and one of them's thrown off the curve, we care because that's one of our students and something's going on there. So thank you for the information tonight and for staying late to present it.
Hi, Dr. Haglis.
Hello.
I was riveted the entire time for your presentation. So whatever clip that was, if you continue that, that's just really great, I think.
I was practicing parsimony. It
Proud
actually
of you.
takes a lot of effort for me. Those who know me
You have
know
so
that.
much, you have so much to give. So thank you for giving us just a little tonight. I really appreciate that. Okay, slide 27, where you said we talked about equitable learning environments on slide 27. Will you give us an example of what that looks like?
Well, it's not, it's equitable learning environments means that we are adapting our instruction to meet individually tailored needs, right? Because every student has different needs. And so we have to adjust our practices to try to respond to each one of those individual needs. We can't just give the same boxed curriculum and lesson to every student because the outcomes will kind of be vary, and we need to see where students are struggling and meet them where they're at.
Which I feel like we've done before in forms of differentiation and other things. But when you mentioned it in relation to restorative justice, since that's kind of something we're focusing on, and I would love to know an example from you.
Well, interesting. It's just that happens to be one of the pillars of the restorative justice learning that we're doing right now. It's a really good question. That equitable learning environments is one of the key pillars. Restorative justice is really about is a disciplinary response, and as we discussed earlier, we believe in a holistic approach, a whole child approach to helping students improve their outcomes. So even what we talked about earlier with nutrition or with our disciplinary practices, these are all things that are going to help boost our students, hopefully boost our student performance. It just happens to be that one of the things that we've been highlighting in our restorative justice work is equitable learning environments that way.
I like your answer.
And it ties into the.
Nope, that's good.
Oh, sorry. Can I?
No, yeah, I don't want to cut you off, but thank you. That was enough. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. These, like Trustee Otmar had said too, are great just to hang on to, and you can just peruse them and go, oh, connect this to this and that. It's great to see. It's also heartening to see that there's some COVID recovery happening now too, and we've been waiting we've been waiting however long it's been. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a bit to see those numbers start to kick in. So that's feel good news. Nice presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, item D, Assistant Superintendent Jorn, Education Protection Account Actuals.
I'll be very quick. The board adopted an expenditure plan associated with Proposition 30, which is the educational protection account for our school district. The board adopted that resolution, which was 1135 back on July 9th of 2024. And just tonight as an information item, I'm simply reporting to the board the actuals, and the actuals associated with 23-24 were $378,332.34. And every penny of the EPA account goes into our Object 1000s, which is our instructional staff salaries.
Anybody online with public comment on this? No, or in the room? Seeing no one. Board. Any questions or comments? I've got none. I'm seeing everyone shake their head. Okay, thank you so much for that. Moving on to item E. CSBA board policy updates. Dr. Adamson.
Yes, absolutely. So this is really just a list of all of the policy updates as recommended by CSBA and as reviewed by our entire policy committee a few weeks back. And just, I think it's appropriate for me to just mention again how valuable I see this process, how valuable everyone's input is. I think the discussions that we have as a result, I love the fact that we have this sort of built in. It's a quarterly part of the process that, CSBA submits and shares with us what policies require updating. We get to do it, we review them, and bring forward the recommendations. So all of the recommendations are, set forth, in the packet. And the only additional one that was not on the CSBA policy was Board Bylaw 9259. It was, questioned a few weeks back as to whether we need to actually insert the exact amount of the stipend that, that huge stipend that board members receive. That's sarcasm, right? For your role and the work you do, if we need to put the specific amount in the policy, and it really was recommended by legal counsel. We have the option to do so. We discussed it and decided to really leave it out that way. If it ever changes, we're not having to go back and change the policy. But other than that, everything recommended as listed.
Okay. All those details are available for the public to see online. Is there anybody online? Nobody, anybody in the room care to comment or question on this? Board? No, I'm saying, I like how you leave it blank though, for maybe someday when that stipend will increase.
Just two quick things. I just want to thank the policy committee for this. There's a lot of changes, I'd say more than usual even in here. And the other thing, the idea of a school district using Snapchat kind of scares me but I'm glad to see all the technology in there, but the fact that that's a possibility is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Trustee McNary, I think you had something.
I think just direction to bring it back on consent for approval if everyone's in agreement.
That sounds like good direction to me.
All right.
I'm seeing no opposition. So, okay. So I think we're good with that particular item. We're going to move on to item F, future agenda items.
It's for the policy committee, but I like to say them in front of everybody because it's just, it's all of our thing. Can we, for the next future policy committee, bring back a food service policy so that we can put in writing what Robert's doing and make sure it continues to happen? With his data.
Agreement, yes, indeed. Okay,
Nice.
we will add that to the
Yeah.
notes, and Mrs.
Sugar
Viegas
grams.
is adding that to it. And might I add, I know we talk about the policy committee, but we put all those changes into place, and then my executive assistant, Sarah over there, gets to go and do all of that lovely work. And so I just want to recognize her for that as well. So grateful.
All right. Is that it for future agenda items? All right, good people. There is a special board meeting in a couple of weeks, but it looks like that will be closed session only. And then our next board meeting will be December 12. This meeting is adjourned. We'll see you then.
What's the nature of that closed session?